Imagine finally getting a life-changing system, only for the zombie apocalypse to begin 5 seconds later. Even worse, your first mission is to flirt with the woman trying to eat you alive. Fresh out of college, Meng lands what he believes is the perfect office job, convinced that hard work will finally lead him to success. That dream doesn't even survive his first week. Endless overtime quickly turns the fresh graduate into nothing more than another exhausted corporate slave. By the time another late-night shift rolls around, Meng is so drained that he doesn't even bother thinking about tomorrow. Instead, he starts wishing the entire world would just end already. Aliens, monsters, zombies at this point. He'll gladly take anything over another day at the office. The moment those words leave his mouth, a strange mechanical voice suddenly echoes through the room. It announces the activation of the perfect life system before a glowing status window materializes right in front of him. Completely dumbfounded, Meng stares at the screen as his personal stats appear one after another. Then reality finally sinks in. Somehow he actually has a system. Every bit of frustration he's been carrying instantly disappears as he throws his hands into the air, convinced he's finally escaped the nightmare of working overtime forever. Unfortunately, the universe decides to grant his wish in the worst way possible. A deafening explosion suddenly shakes the entire building. Meng rushes to the window just in time to watch the street erupt into complete chaos. A massive gas explosion tears through the city while terrified civilians desperately flee in every direction. But the fire isn't what scares him the most. People all over the street are turning into bloodthirsty zombies and attacking anyone they can catch. Meng can only stand there in stunned silence as the apocalypse begins right outside his office window. Realizing he could be next, he immediately shuts the curtains and hides from anything lurking outside. Our guy only has one question. How is this supposed to be the perfect life system when the apocalypse literally just started? The screen calmly replies that everything is functioning exactly as intended. Before Meng can complain any further, a loud bang suddenly echoes through the office. He whips around and finds a woman repeatedly throwing herself against the glass door. One look is enough to tell she's already turned into a zombie. Then it finally clicks. She's the gorgeous woman our guy always used to see in the company elevator. He used to think she was completely out of his league. Now she's trying to eat him alive. Our guy is definitely over that crush. As if things weren't ridiculous enough already, the system suddenly hands him his very first mission. Find true love by flirting with a woman. Our guy gathers every useful supply he can find, including a large bottle of water. If the system assigned this mission, maybe it's actually possible. With nothing left to lose, Meng unlocks the office door. The zombie immediately loses her balance and crashes face first onto the floor. Before she can get back up, our guy awkwardly introduces himself and asks if she'd like to be friends. She doesn't answer, taking the silence as a yes. Meng gives an awkward smile before sprinting back inside and slamming the door shut. The zombie just sits there for a second, looking completely confused. Then her instincts kick back in, and she starts smashing her head against the glass all over again. Our guy can't help wondering if that counts as making the first move. His first attempt at flirting couldn't have gone much worse. Still, Meng receives 1 attribute point along with 10 favor points from the zombie. Her profile immediately appears, revealing her name is Chi Wei. Then our guy has an idea. If Chi Wei likes him enough, maybe she'll stop trying to eat him. The system explains that as her favor increases, she'll naturally want to stay close to him and become more obedient. Our guy suddenly realizes this system might be helping him tame zombies, unless it's actually trying to get him a zombie girlfriend. Unfortunately, that's all the explanation he gets. There isn't even a tutorial. Since the system isn't giving him any more answers, Meng decides to test it himself. He spends his only attribute point on strength. The upgrade takes effect immediately, and a surge of power rushes through his entire body. Just 1 point is enough to make him noticeably stronger. With his first upgrade complete, Meng is finally ready to take his first step into the apocalypse. In the apocalypse, spirit, agility, and physique are all important. But for Meng, nothing is more important than raw strength. After searching the office, he gathers a few supplies, but it won't be enough to survive for long. Right then, the perfect life system gives him another mission. He has 17 minutes to clock in for work. Complete it, and he'll earn 5 attribute points along with a chance to catch his boss's attention. There's just one obstacle. The attendance machine is outside, and so is Chi Wei. Fortunately, she doesn't seem nearly as eager to attack him anymore. Looking at his active missions, Meng notices something interesting. He has to clock in for work and flirt with a woman. Since he has to deal with Chi Wei anyway, he figures he might as well finish both missions at once. As long as she doesn't scratch or bite him, he should be fine. With that settled, Meng throws together a suit of makeshift armor using paper, duct tape, and whatever else he can find. He even makes himself a crude spear. Fully prepared, Meng opens the office door. The second he steps into the hallway, every zombie turns to stare at him. Instead of backing away, Meng walks straight over to Chi Wei and asks her out. He admits he doesn't own a house or a car yet, but promises to work hard and even invites her out for dinner on Thursday. Apparently, his plan is to overwhelm her with cheesy pickup lines. The system isn't impressed. Chi Wei loses 10 favor points, and he's immediately branded a loser for being rude and talking too much. Meng is so embarrassed he can barely keep a straight face. The bizarre confession doesn't go unnoticed. Two employees hiding in a nearby office instantly recognize Meng's voice. They can't believe he's confessing to Chi Wei, the woman their manager had been chasing before the apocalypse. At this point, they're convinced he's finally lost it. But one thing leaves them completely confused. Chi Wei still hasn't attacked him. Realizing Meng might be the perfect distraction, the manager calls out to him. By then, Meng has already finished clocking in. On the way back, he notices every office is packed with zombies. The system announces he completed the mission 3 minutes ahead of schedule. He earns 5 attribute points for the effort. Still, surviving the apocalypse is a lot more important than worrying about rewards. Chi Wei may be harmless for now, but the rest of the zombies definitely aren't. Deciding not to take any unnecessary risks, Meng heads back toward his office. Before he reaches the door, someone suddenly calls his name. Jack asks Meng to lure Chi Wei away from the entrance. The request catches him completely off guard, especially coming from someone who never treated him well. Even so, more survivors means a better chance of staying alive, so Meng agrees to help. Jack happily opens the office door and invites him over. The moment Meng gets close enough, Jack slams the door shut right in his face. Jack thanks Meng for distracting Chi Wei and even promises to promote him after the apocalypse. Somehow, Chi Wei still doesn't attack. Meng just laughs. For a second, he almost believes Jack is telling jokes. The system congratulates him for getting his boss's attention and reminds him to always respect his superiors. Meng smiles, wishes everyone a good morning, and tells them it's time to get back to work. The two men freeze on the spot. They can't decide whether Meng is fearless or completely insane. Instead of opening the door, they shove furniture against it and desperately try to block the entrance. Jack keeps yelling for his co-worker to move faster. Meng smashes the door open, sending Jack flat onto the floor. He greets both of them with another cheerful good morning. Jack instantly starts making excuses and insists he can explain everything. A moment later, he awkwardly claims he's late for work before trying to leave. Chi Wei quietly follows behind him. Then she notices the two men hiding inside the office. Chi Wei rushes straight into the room. Their cries for help echo through the hallway. Meng closes the door and locks it from the outside. The system gives him a perfect evaluation. He earns a letter of recommendation and 5 professional experience points. He also unlocks a hidden achievement called Generation Z brings order to the workplace. The reward is 5,000 yuan. Meng decides to save it instead. Money is still money, even during the apocalypse. His new reward turns out to be far more interesting. The letter of recommendation lets him choose a profession. Meng starts imagining swordsmen, mages, and all kinds of overpowered classes. The system picks flyer distributor. Meng stares at the screen in disbelief. The profession comes with 3 assignments. Advertise a swimming academy, advertise a law firm, or advertise a real estate agency. Meng chooses the swimming academy since it offers better rewards with the least effort. The system immediately calls him out for taking the easy option. He ignores the complaint. Every profession can level up and unlock new attribute points and special skills. If that's how people grow stronger, then everyone has to start somewhere. The mission begins with a stack of flyers appearing in his hands. Chi Wei is still waiting in the hallway. One glance at her status tells Meng she's somehow grown to dislike him even more. He tries talking to her. Her favor drops again. He tries being friendlier. Her favor drops even further. At this rate, she's going to hate him before she ever bites him. Meng has no idea what he's doing wrong. Before he can embarrass himself again, screams erupt from the office. Jack and his co-worker have already started turning into zombies. Meng reminds the two men that they tried to kill him first, so they have no right to complain now. Then he pulls out a stack of swimming academy flyers and starts handing them to the two half-zombies. The problem is neither of them can actually respond. Meng keeps tossing flyers at them anyway. The system immediately points out that throwing advertisements at a customer's feet is terrible service. Meng gives up trying to understand why they betrayed him in the first place. Since they're already dead, he decides they might as well start a new career. First, they'll help him clean out the building. In another office, a terrified woman watches the news on her phone. Every report says the same thing. The zombie outbreak has thrown the entire city into chaos. With nowhere to run, she quietly prays for someone to save her. A loud bang suddenly shakes the door. She's convinced the zombies have found her. Instead, a man's voice starts advertising swimming lessons. Meng is outside asking zombies if they'd like to join a fitness club. The woman has no idea what she's hearing. She slowly opens the door to take a look. The sight in front of her is somehow even stranger. Meng is seriously pitching gym memberships to a crowd of zombies. He even explains that swimming will make office zombies more competitive. To sweeten the deal, he throws in a free trial class. Convinced she's hallucinating, she sends what she believes might be her final message. It simply says she saw a man selling gym memberships to zombies. Meng eventually realizes the two zombies aren't helping him much anymore, so he orders them to follow behind him instead. They end up acting as living shields while he safely explores the building. To Meng, it's the perfect formation. After handing out more than 200 flyers, he finally decides to take a break and opens the system to check his progress. His leaflet distributor profession is already ready to level up, so he upgrades it without hesitation. The promotion immediately takes effect, raising him to level 1. Along with better resistance to extreme weather and a boost to his movement speed, he also unlocks a brand new skill called Reading People. The skill lets him see another person's profession and level at a glance. Feeling satisfied with everything he's accomplished so far, he leans back in his chair. The explosions outside quickly bring him back to reality. Helicopters continue circling above the city as the apocalypse spreads, but at least this building still has more than enough zombies for him to finish his mission. Wanting to test his new skill, he uses Reading People on one of the zombies. Its favor is -100. Even after everything they've been through together, they're still not friends. He figures talking isn't going to help. Then something suddenly comes to mind. He never actually gave them the flyers. Thinking that'll solve the problem, he announces a 20% friends discount before handing the flyers to the zombies. One of them immediately lunges at him. He drops it with a single thrust of his spear, then politely places the flyer on top of its body. More zombies soon wander into the hallway. This time, Reading People reveals something strange. None of the new zombies have a favor meter. He figures only Chi Wei and his former manager have one because they're connected to the system's missions. He even asks the two zombies if they think that's strange, but even after giving them a shove, they remain completely lifeless. At this point, he's convinced he's the only normal person left in the building. Before moving on, he unties the ropes and lets the two zombies walk freely. With his break officially over, the system gives him another assignment. His next customer is a manager named Lin on the 11th floor. Right then, the elevator arrives. He brings his two zombie co-workers along since meeting another manager alone doesn't sound like a great idea. Before long, the zombies are dragging him through the hallway while he cheers them on like they're part of a real work team. Their trip comes to an abrupt stop when a massive horde of zombies blocks the corridor ahead. Chi Wei and the former manager charge into the horde first. The zombie manager tears through the crowd far more easily than Meng expected. Then a much larger zombie steps forward. Meng rushes in with his spear before it gets any closer. More zombies pile into the fight from every direction. A blonde zombie catches him from the side. Meng drops it with one clean strike. The rest don't last much longer. By the time the fighting ends, the hallway is covered with zombie bodies. Meng finally reaches the 11th floor. Taking one last breath, he prepares to meet whatever is waiting for him next. After clearing the last zombie on the 11th floor, Meng finally reaches Director Lin's office. Even his zombie co-workers stop in their tracks after watching him fight. He introduces himself as an employee from Jianglin Tech and says he's here to discuss a parking issue. Then he asks where today's meeting is supposed to take place. The system counts it as another perfect mission. Apparently, he scared every employee from Wangxiang International. His rewards include cash, experience, and another attribute point. Before leaving, Meng decides to loot anything useful on the 11th floor. He ties his zombie co-workers together so they won't wander off. When he checks the time, it's only 3 in the afternoon. Office life has completely brainwashed him. Even during a zombie apocalypse, he's still waiting for the workday to end. Meng sits down with a bottle of soda and thinks about everything that's happened. The virus appeared out of nowhere. That makes him think the outbreak may have been planned from the very beginning. Whatever caused it, getting stronger is all that Janayers now. He spends his new attribute point on strength. Then he notices both of his professions are ready to level up. His leaflet distributor class increased his agility. Now he's curious what the office worker class will give him. He levels it up without hesitation. The upgrade gives him 2 spirit and 0.5 constitution. He also unlocks a passive skill called idleness. The skill makes managers pay less attention to him while he's working. That should make gathering supplies with his zombie co-workers much safer. His break is cut short when a new daily mission pops up. The objective is simple: work diligently. Even the apocalypse can't save him from office work. Meng grumbles about the system before sitting down at a computer. After finishing his shift, the system rewards him for being a hard-working employee. Meng lets out a relieved sigh. He clocks out and heads back to his desk. A stack of cash is waiting for him. Meng can't think of a single use for money during the apocalypse. The system explains that cash can be spent on special lottery draws with guaranteed rewards. That immediately gets his attention. Meng spends his money on 10 draws. He wins instant noodles, bottled water, a business suit, and a talent called bodyguard. The last reward is the one that interests him the most. Meng checks the description of the bodyguard talent. Using it will summon an experienced bodyguard somewhere within a 3-kilometer radius. The only problem is that the bodyguard isn't guaranteed to work for him. Even so, Meng decides it's worth the risk. While eating his instant noodles, he starts planning for the future. If the system keeps giving him office jobs, maybe he should build his own company. Before long, he's already imagining himself as a successful CEO with a cigar in one hand and expensive wine in the other. That's when the system interrupts his daydream. Someone has entered the building without permission. A new mission pops up, ordering him to protect company property. Meng accepts it without a second thought. If this company is his workplace, then nobody's stealing from it. Elsewhere in the building, 2 survivors are fighting their way through the zombies. Jean blames the zombie for attracting so many of them with her screaming. Since they've already lost all their supplies, he decides they'll search this building instead. Jean tells his blonde partner to take the lead while he covers from behind. The moment his partner walks ahead, Jean quietly pulls out a knife. Before he can do anything, the blonde man suddenly stops. He hears footsteps nearby. Jean figures they're probably from another survivor. The blonde man carefully peeks around the corner. Meng is standing right behind him. The surprise sends him tumbling down the stairs. Jean immediately asks how many people are upstairs and whether they have food. Meng ignores the question. Instead, he says this is private property and asks why security let trespassers inside. He even threatens to report the security company and call a lawyer. Both men just stare at him. Jean can't believe this guy is talking about company policy during a zombie apocalypse. Deciding words won't solve anything. He raises his baseball bat. Meng calls over his zombie co-workers. The blonde man tells Jean to attack first since they're outnumbered. A knife suddenly flies toward Meng. He dodges it with ease. One swing sends the blonde man crashing to the floor. Meng spins a wrench in his hand and declares himself the embodiment of justice. Jean grabs a second baseball bat. Even after seeing Meng fight, he refuses to back down. Meng casually mentions that he disinfected the wrench with iodine before using it. Then he marches forward with his zombie co-workers. He's been waiting forever to say this. The intruders picked the wrong company to mess with. The zombies are enough to make Jean hesitate. The blonde man scrambles to his feet and bolts for the stairs. Meng tells them they can't leave before paying for breaking into the company. He points at the intruders and orders his zombie co-workers to attack. The zombies don't even take a single step. Meng realizes they dislike him so much that they won't even follow his orders. Jean quickly notices something strange. The zombies aren't attacking Meng at all. As Meng slowly walks down the stairs with the zombies following behind, both intruders can only watch in confusion. Meng proudly introduces himself as a community volunteer dedicated to protecting company property. The blonde survivor asks Jean what they're supposed to do now. Jean tells him to attack the zombies. The blonde guy refuses immediately. He's way too scared. Jean's next idea is jumping out the third-floor window. One look outside kills that plan. The streets below are completely packed with zombies. Jean charges straight at Meng, but he calmly reminds him that everything from this point on counts as self-defense. One zombie steps in to protect his boss. Jean smashes his baseball bat into the zombie's head. The zombie doesn't even flinch. The sight catches Jean completely off guard. Meng takes the opportunity to throw his wrench. It slams into Jean's bat and sends him crashing to the floor. Before Jean can recover, Jack is already on top of him. Meng watches the whole thing without the slightest concern. He even cleans his ear while reminding the intruders that he warned them not to trespass. The only thing bothering him now is having to clean up the mess. Then he turns to the blonde survivor. If he tries to run, Jack will chase him next. The warning is enough to make the blonde guy freeze. He never imagined a company safety volunteer would fight people with zombies. Meng looks at his blood-stained wrench and admits he may have gone a little overboard with self-defense. After stepping over Jean, he sarcastically says he'll call an ambulance. Then he tells the blonde man to call the police while he contacts his lawyer. Meng actually waits for him to make the call. The terrified survivor apologizes over and over again. He blames everything on Jean and insists he was only following orders. Meng isn't impressed. If saying sorry fixed everything, there wouldn't be any need for laws. Still, he's too lazy to deal with him any longer. Meng tells him to disappear before he changes his mind. He even suggests jumping out the third-floor window since the fall probably won't kill him. The blonde man doesn't hesitate for a second. He smashes the window and jumps into the zombie-filled street below. Meng glances at the badly injured Jean. At least Chi Wei would have someone to keep her company now. With that, he heads back to work. He grabs another stack of flyers and decides to call it a day. Then the system gives him some unexpected news. Chi Wei and Zhang Tao's favor has increased. Apparently, handing them food made them like him a little more. Meng is completely offended. He immediately tells them they're absolutely not allowed to start liking him. That's when another system mission appears. Open your own business. Meng wonders if the system has been reading his mind. He briefly imagines running a small food stall. Then he remembers his customers are zombies. The dream dies instantly. Before he can think about it any longer, another mission arrives. Director Lin still hasn't moved his car. The system wants Meng to teach him a lesson. Meng accepts the mission and realizes the system has already planned out his future. First, reform his zombie co-workers. Then lay off 60% of the neighboring company's employees. He heads straight into Wangxiang International. Meng orders his zombie co-workers to charge. Then he jumps into the horde with them. Together, they carve a path through the corridor. By the time the fighting ends, zombies are scattered across the entire floor. None of them manage to land a single hit. Meng proudly announces that he just fired a few dozen employees. Satisfied with today's work, he tells everyone it's time to leave. At the same time, a young woman is hiding inside a restroom stall. She's starving and barely has the strength to move. She keeps praying for the food delivery she ordered to somehow arrive. Then she hears someone talking outside. Meng is trying to sell apartments to zombies. She slowly opens the stall door. The first thing she sees is Meng fighting through a crowd of zombies. He cuts them down one after another while pitching luxury apartments. According to Meng, the zombies clearly look interested in buying one. A few moments later, every zombie is lying on the floor. The woman can't believe what she's watching. This man is either unbelievably strong or completely insane. Either way, he's her only chance of getting out alive. Meng notices someone hiding in the restroom and walks over. Instead of asking if she's okay, he asks whether she's interested in swimming lessons, legal advice, or buying a new home. At the same time, his clerk profession reaches level 2. The woman cautiously asks if he's actually alive. Meng happily shows her his flyers. After searching all day, he finally found a living customer. They move into the company's legal office to continue the consultation. The woman introduces herself as Shun. She says she needs legal advice for a friend. Even after getting away from the zombies, she's still terrified of Meng. When she hesitates to speak, Meng starts urging her to get to the point. Shin finally explains that her friend suffered terrible abuse at work before being attacked by his own boss. The system immediately declares the consultation a success. Another mission complete. Meng thanks Shun for using his legal service and tells her she's welcome to come back anytime. Shin tearfully thanks him and calls him a kind person. Meng immediately asks if she's going to pay for the consultation. Shin has no idea what he's talking about. Meng explains that the lawyer charges 200 yuan per hour, so 30 minutes still isn't free. Even the zombie manager seems proud of his professionalism. Shin admits he's right and agrees to pay. Since he's planning to start his own company anyway, Meng offers her a job. Shin thinks the offer over and decides Meng may be weird, but he's strong enough to survive the apocalypse. She accepts the job and officially becomes his first employee. The system congratulates Meng on hiring someone. The only problem is that every company still needs the proper licenses. He can't believe the apocalypse didn't wipe out paperwork. After complaining about the bureaucracy, he tells Shun they're heading to the 4th floor. On the way, he hands her a soda. Back at the office, Meng finally comes up with a company name. Peace and Order. Shun immediately gives it her approval. Looking out the window, Meng can't help feeling proud. In just a few days, he's already become the president of his own company. Shun applauds him like he's accomplished something incredible. Her stomach suddenly growls, and she immediately turns red with embarrassment. Meng opens a cabinet full of instant noodles and tells her to eat as much as she wants. Shun's eyes light up. After days without a proper meal, the noodles taste better than any luxury dinner. She thanks Meng and declares he's the best boss she's ever had. Once she's full, she finally relaxes. Meng officially assigns Shun to office work. Her first task is printing the employment contract. Shun can't believe she's doing paperwork during a zombie apocalypse. Meng just asks if she doesn't know how to use Excel. Then he introduces her to the company's security team, Chi Wei and Zhang Tao. Shun nearly screams after seeing 2 zombies standing in the office. Meng assures her they're only security guards. He also suggests keeping a safe distance from them. That advice doesn't make Shun feel any better. Meng tells her to get back to work. Shun returns to her old desk and immediately starts working. Watching her adapt so quickly, Meng decides she has plenty of potential. Before leaving, Meng tells Shun he has to handle some company paperwork at the bank. He also plans to recruit another talented employee. His only instruction is to welcome the newcomer and avoid mentioning that two of their coworkers are zombies. As soon as he finishes speaking, the system announces that peace and order has officially been established. Meng receives another cash reward, which the system stores until he decides to withdraw it. Before leaving, Meng spends his new attribute point on strength. His body immediately feels even stronger. The system updates his profile. His current professions are clerk, flyer distributor, and company president. His strength also increases to 14. Meng takes a moment to look over his skills. One day, he's convinced this company would stand at the top of the world. Shin watches her new boss in complete silence. The more time she spends with him, the less she understands him. Once Meng leaves, she opens a group chat with her friends. She starts complaining about having to register a company during the zombie apocalypse. Then she carefully peeks outside the office. Chi Wei and Zhang Tao are still standing there. The two zombies quietly stare back at her. Shen immediately shuts the door and goes back to begging her friends for help. Meng heads to the parking lot to find a company car. A Cadillac feels too flashy, so he decides to take a small compact car instead. Before he can leave, a red sports car catches his attention. He walks over to check it out, but the door is locked. The system suddenly gives Meng a new part-time job as a driver, explaining that the company needs someone to handle transportation. It even tells him to face life with a smile. Meng takes that advice a little too seriously, cheerfully asking the zombies to be more polite while beating them into the ground. During the fight, he realizes one of the zombies is Uncle Wong, someone he never expected to become a boss monster. Two nearby survivors watch the entire fight in horror and quietly try to sneak away before Meng notices them. Meng catches them almost immediately, clears the remaining zombies, and complains that delivering flyers would be much easier if the zombies stopped attacking him. Looking at the parking lot covered in bodies, he wonders if anyone would actually call a taxi during the apocalypse. He walks back to the red sports car. The moment he grabs the steering wheel, the engine starts on its own, and the sports car shoots out of the parking lot. Somewhere else, an older man searches every corner of his house for medicine, only to find that every bottle is empty. His daughter is still burning with a high fever, and when he tells his wife they've run out of medicine, she breaks down in tears. Knowing they can't wait any longer, the man decides to risk his life and search for help outside. His wife desperately begs him to stay, but he says doing nothing would only guarantee their daughter's condition gets worse. After asking his wife to take care of their daughter, he says goodbye and leaves. The city outside is overrun with zombies, and after running for nearly half an hour, the exhausted man can barely catch his breath. Just then, a group of zombies spots him, forcing him to run again. A survivor in a red hoodie suddenly lands in front of him. Instead of helping, the man kicks him straight toward the zombies to buy himself more time. The old man crashes to the ground in shock. The survivor apologizes, saying he doesn't want to die either, before abandoning the old man to the horde. The old man is quickly surrounded by zombies and accepts that this is where his life ends. Out of nowhere, a red sports car crashes through the horde, sending zombies flying in every direction. The shocked man looks up to find Meng behind the wheel, casually asking if he needs a taxi. The system reminds Meng that a good boss pays generous wages because underpaid employees are more likely to quit. That's when Meng remembers he already promised Shin a salary of 20,000 a month and immediately starts regretting it. Back at the office, Shin sneezes but keeps working despite looking exhausted, while Chi Wei and Zhang Tao silently watch her from nearby. Meng asks the old man why he was risking his life outside. The man explains that he's an HR manager trying to reach a pharmacy for medicine because his daughter is seriously ill. Meng asks why he didn't drive there himself. The man admits he had to sell his car when things got tough. Meng sighs that the economy really is terrible since even a company president has to work as a taxi driver. After a brief silence, Meng introduces himself as the president of Peace and Order and offers the man a job. The offer includes a monthly salary of 3,000, plus free food and housing. The stunned HR manager can't believe he's being recruited in the middle of the apocalypse. Although Meng seems a little crazy, he decides strange is better than dead and accepts the offer. Before anything else, he asks Meng to stop by the nearby pharmacy. As they drive, Meng casually asks about the man's daughter while plowing straight through every zombie blocking the road. He even punches a zombie through the open window, complaining that people should stop chasing a taxi that's already full. Meng shouts that this is a taxi, not a minibus. The HR manager starts wondering how someone could get burned out after only 3 days of the apocalypse. Meng suddenly drifts around a corner, slamming his passenger against the door. When the man asks what happened, Meng calmly says nothing's wrong. He lights a cigarette and explains they're waiting for the traffic light to turn green. Even as zombies surround the car and pound on the windows, Meng refuses to move. He complains that the zombies have terrible manners and no respect for traffic laws. The terrified passenger begs him to drive away. Meng scolds him for suggesting they run a red light, because traffic rules still matter. By now, the HR manager is seriously questioning his decision to get in this car. The instant the light turns green, Meng floors the accelerator and smashes through the horde. The passenger is amazed by Meng's driving, while Meng casually credits 10 years of racing games for his skills. A moment later, Meng notices another car following them. The HR manager guesses it might be another taxi trying to steal the passenger. Meng dismisses that idea since there can't be many taxi drivers left during the apocalypse. He figures it's either survivors trying to rob them or the zombies from the parking lot somehow coming back for revenge. The HR manager points out that zombies shouldn't know how to drive, so whoever's chasing them has to be human. Meng agrees. If that's the case, they'll just have to shake them off first and figure out what they want later. Before he can think any further, a new system notification pops up. His bodyguard has appeared somewhere nearby. At the same time, the HR manager suddenly points ahead in panic. A gigantic zombie is standing right in the middle of the road, casually carrying another zombie in one hand. The system immediately identifies it as a level 3 mutated power zombie. Meng stares at the monster in disbelief, wondering if this thing is seriously supposed to be the bodyguard the system found for him. The HR manager suggests running it over. Meng immediately shoots that idea down. Right now, finding medicine and getting back to the company comes first. Instead, he floors the accelerator and swerves around the giant zombie, barely avoiding its attack before speeding away. Looking out the window, he admits he might be crazy, but he's definitely not stupid. That monster is way above his pay grade, so getting out of there is the smarter choice. Meanwhile, inside the silver car behind them, a pink-haired girl tells her boyfriend they should turn around before it's too late. He just smirks and says there's nothing to worry about. The taxi in front is already clearing the road for them. Planning to take full advantage of the situation, he keeps driving straight toward the intersection. The mutated zombie immediately notices the approaching car and turns its attention toward them. Back inside the taxi, the HR manager asks what that monster even was since it looked nothing like the other zombies. Meng explains that it's probably the advanced bodyguard the system mentioned a moment ago. The HR manager can't believe a bodyguard would look like that. Before either of them can say another word, a massive explosion erupts behind them where the mutated zombie was standing. Meng keeps driving like nothing happened and eventually drops the HR manager off somewhere safe. Before letting him leave, our guy asks him to pay the taxi fare. Luanping hands over his bank card, and Meng happily accepts it after realizing money is still pretty useful when you've got employees to pay. By now, Luanping is convinced Meng is completely insane, but somehow he's also the kind of crazy person people can trust. After all, without him, he'd already be zombie food. Taking the opportunity, Luanping asks how many people work at the company and whether there's enough food for everyone. Instead of answering, Meng invites him to join the company and asks him to introduce himself first. Luanping explains that he used to work as an HR manager at a brewery and was also training to become an electrician. Hearing that, Meng perks up immediately. An electrician is exactly what the company needs right now. Luanping then asks if he can bring his wife and daughter along. Meng agrees without hesitation. The system suddenly reminds him that child labor is prohibited. Our guy quickly decides that as long as the kid isn't getting paid, it technically doesn't count as employment. He then asks Luanping about his expected salary. Luanping simply says he just wants to work hard. That answer nearly brings tears to Meng's eyes. He grabs Luanping by both hands and starts talking about how important he is to the company's future. The emotional moment lasts all of 2 seconds before the system interrupts again, reminding him the company still has a mandatory minimum wage. Meng immediately scolds Luanping for trying to turn his company into a feudal kingdom. According to him, fair pay is one principle he refuses to compromise on. Since Luanping is just starting out, Meng hires him as an intern with a monthly salary of 8,000. Luanping happily accepts the offer and officially becomes the company's newest employee. After shaking his hand, Meng welcomes him aboard and tells him the company is now his new home. Since there's no time to finish the paperwork, he tells Luanping to grab the medicine for his daughter first. Before leaving, Meng hands him a kitchen knife and reminds him it's strictly for self-defense. Luanping nods and promises he'll obey the law. Satisfied with the answer, Meng immediately hits the gas and drives off, leaving his newest employee standing outside the pharmacy. Luanping looks down at the knife in his hand before a relieved smile slowly appears on his face. At least now, he has a way to protect himself. Meng finally makes it back to his apartment. The moment he walks inside, the exhaustion from the entire day catches up to him. He tosses his filthy shirt onto the floor and collapses onto the bed. Thinking about everything that's happened today, our guy can't help feeling that life has gotten a whole lot better since starting his own company. He plans to take a shower, get some proper sleep, and prepare for whatever tomorrow brings. Just then, another system notification pops up. According to the system, an ideal life begins with an ideal night's sleep. Meng immediately lights up after realizing he can even earn rewards while sleeping. With that thought in mind, he closes his eyes, convinced his perfect post-apocalyptic life has finally begun. 2 days have passed, and after wrapping up all the company's paperwork, it's finally time to head back. This time, Luanping is behind the wheel while Meng sits back in the passenger seat, casually scrolling through the news on his phone. One article talks about a newly formed civil rescue committee along with the people leading it. That immediately catches his attention. People are already organizing themselves, and something about it doesn't feel right. Before he can think any further, a system notification pops up. A special talent has appeared nearby. Looking out the window, Meng spots a giant mutated zombie lying in the middle of the road, surrounded by several survivors. He also recognizes the wrecked car nearby. It's the same one that was chasing them before. Without wasting any time, he tells Luanping to stop the car. Although he has no idea what his boss is planning, Luanping follows the order without asking questions. Stepping out with an axe in hand, Meng asks Luanping what he thinks the zombie is doing. Then he grins and jokes that the big guy looks like he's waiting for work. With that, our guy walks straight toward the mutant. The surrounding zombies immediately rush to stop him. One swing of the axe slices 2 of them clean in half. Another precise strike drops a 3rd zombie, clearing the path completely. Luanping can only watch in disbelief as his new boss tears through the horde like it's nothing. Covered in blood and dirt, Meng stops in front of the giant zombie and asks how much money it's made today. The mutant answers with nothing but an angry growl. That's when Meng realizes the poor guy isn't waiting for work at all. It was probably hit by a car. He even tells it to hang in there before noticing its injured leg slowly regenerating. He wonders if mutated zombies can regenerate on their own. To test his theory, he smacks the monster's hand with the axe and tells it not to heal so fast. Realizing this zombie is completely different from the others, Meng decides it's worth studying. Luanping watches from a distance, seriously starting to question whether his boss is mentally okay. Meanwhile, Meng chops off one of the mutant's arms with a single swing. He studies the severed arm for a moment before casually tossing it aside. Apparently, the research isn't over yet. This time, he swaps the axe for a wrench. One heavy swing caves in the mutant's skull. Even Luanping can't hide the horror on his face anymore. Squatting beside the corpse, Meng continues digging through the zombie's head. To his surprise, he finds a strange crystal hidden inside. He immediately wonders if it might be connected to superpowers. Luanping walks over and asks what it is. Instead of answering, Meng simply asks him for a tissue. Without asking any questions, Luanping hands one over. Meng carefully wraps the crystal with it, making sure not to touch it directly. With the sample secured, he decides it's finally time to head back. He also realizes they'll need to recruit someone capable of researching the crystal. Sometime later, they finally arrive back at the company. Peace and Order's very first mission is officially complete. The company not only finishes all of its bureaucratic work, but also recruits 3 talented new employees. Meanwhile, Luanping still can't believe he somehow found a new job in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Back at the company, Meng announces that everyone would be submitting weekly reports from now on. He complains that some companies make money off women, others make money off children, but his company is going to make money from absolutely everyone. Looking at Luanping, he figures the guy has potential. If he works hard enough, he might even earn a promotion in 3 months. Just then, a massive zombie with a bag full of dried tofu rushes into the building. Meng calmly grabs his axe and drops it with a single swing. He even scolds the zombie for attacking its own neighbors instead of greeting them politely. Luanping can't help applauding his boss, and Meng admits he likes hard-working employees. The next morning, Peace and Order officially starts another workday. Luanping arrives with his wife and daughter, reminding them to show the boss some respect and pretend the apocalypse doesn't exist. He explains that if they don't work, they won't have anything to eat. His wife starts wondering if Meng might actually be a normal boss after all. Luanping immediately shuts that idea down, insisting their boss is completely normal. Then he collects all of the family's bank cards and savings, saying he has something very important to do with the money. Inside the office, Shin is already hard at work while Meng sits at his desk. Luanping introduces his family, and Meng welcomes them before pointing out the empty desks around the office. He asks Shun to help them get settled. Shin keeps working without looking up, but it's obvious all the talking behind her is getting on her nerves. A moment later, Luanping walks over and quietly hands Meng his bank card as a little gift. For a split second, our guy is genuinely impressed. Bro already knows how the workplace works. The system immediately steps in and warns him not to accept bribes. Left with no choice, Meng leans back in his chair and says he's extremely disappointed in Luanping's behavior. Thinking he messed up, Luanping quickly apologizes for trying to buy himself a promotion. Watching all this unfold, Shun is surprised this bizarre company actually has standards. Meng tells Luanping that promotions are earned through hard work, not bribery. At the same time, he can't help thinking it's pretty bold for someone on their first day to already be aiming for a promotion. He then asks Shin to prepare 2 employment contracts for the new employees. Shin points out there's no electricity, so she can't print anything. Meng tells her she could have just written them by hand. Calling it a lack of initiative, he immediately cuts her salary from 20,000 to 10,000. Shin calmly accepts the punishment and admits the mistake was hers. Meng tells her to take the couple to the conference room and have them sign the contracts by hand. He also asks her to prepare copies for Qi Wei, Zhang Tao, and the other employees who will be joining later. Just then, the system notifies him that the company is officially up and running. That means it's finally time for the company's first meeting. Meng calls Qi Wei and Zhang Tao before heading into the conference room. He tells everyone the meeting comes first. The paperwork can wait. The moment he walks in, everyone immediately stands up. Luanping even pulls out a chair for him. His wife quickly catches on to what's happening and offers Meng a can of soda. Our guy is more than pleased. These new employees are setting the bar pretty high. Shin watches the whole thing with an increasingly annoyed look on her face. After tapping her pen on the table a few times, she finally stands up. She proudly declares that she's the company's most experienced employee and obviously the boss's favorite. Not willing to lose, Shin offers to massage Meng's shoulders, saying he must be exhausted after his business trip. She even reminds everyone that she graduated from a top university and knows exactly how to handle people. While Meng enjoys the attention, Qi Wei, Zhang Tao, and Luanping's daughter are all peacefully asleep at the meeting table. He takes one last sip of his coffee before asking everyone to settle down. Meng starts by restructuring the company. He creates 2 departments, sanitation and cleaning and communications and services. Then he announces the company's most important rule. Humans and zombies when work together without discrimination. The employees immediately show their support. The humans applaud while the zombies respond with a chorus of approving growls. Next, Meng opens the floor for questions and reminds everyone the company supports freedom of speech. Since Shun has been dying to say something, he lets her speak first. She asks what the company is actually going to do. Meng explains that they'll be responsible for cleaning the building while also handling requests from Wangshang International. He then tells Shun to handwrite the contracts and prepare the spreadsheets that need to be sent over. With everything settled, he officially brings the meeting to an end. The system immediately congratulates him, saying the only thing left now is dealing with the neighboring company's problems. As everyone starts leaving, something catches Meng's attention. Qi Wei and Zhang Tao are sitting in the corner, casually snacking on someone's remains. Our guy pauses for a second and just watches them eat. Neither zombie even notices their boss standing right there. Then the red crystal hanging around Meng's neck suddenly begins to glow. Both zombies instantly freeze and lock their eyes onto the crystal. Realizing what's happening, Meng lifts the pendant and asks if this is what they're after. Their reaction tells him everything he needs to know. The crystal he found is actually an evolution crystal. Meng quickly realizes this might be the perfect way to control or at least motivate his zombie employees. He tells the human staff to finish the contracts and clean up the office. Then he gives everyone 3 days to clear out the entire building and turn it into a proper company. To test his theory, he ties the crystal to the end of a stick and tells everyone to figure out exactly what it does. The system identifies it as a basic strength-type evolution crystal. That's all Meng needs to hear. He immediately introduces another company rule. Any zombie that bites a human doesn't get the crystal. The moment they hear that, Qi Wei and Zhang Tao become completely fixated on the reward. Meng smiles and tells them to work hard if they want to earn it. The 2 zombies instantly look fired up and seem ready to clean the entire building on the spot. He takes that as a yes and sends them off to work. Just then, the human employees return with the finished contracts. Back in the office, Meng asks Luanping's wife whether their daughter is feeling any better after taking the medicine. She says the fever is finally gone, but the girl still looks weak, and she has no idea why. Meng tells her to keep a close eye on the child while they're working. Just then, the system detects that Luanping's daughter is suffering from a special mutant inflammation and immediately gives Meng a new mission to cure it. Meng is completely caught off guard by the mission. Treating a cold is one thing, but curing some weird mutant disease is way out of his league. Then our guy gets an idea. He opens the system store to see if it sells medicine. Sure enough, he finds a special medicine that looks perfect for the job. Without wasting any time, he buys it. A box of medicine instantly appears in his hand, leaving Luanping's wife completely speechless. Meng casually explains that one of his friends developed this medicine and confidently assures her it'll cure the little girl. Just as he's about to leave, Luanping asks where he's going. Shen immediately volunteers to come along, saying she's gotten pretty good at handing out flyers and might actually be useful. Meng tells her this mission has nothing to do with flyers. There are still plenty of employees waiting for him upstairs, and this time he's going after Lin's boss. He admits that he used to play it safe and relied on positioning to deal with zombies. But not anymore. From now on, he's fighting zombies with zombies. With that, Meng heads out while everyone reminds him to be careful. After he leaves, the office suddenly falls quiet. Luanping's wife hesitates for a moment before asking if they should really give their daughter that mysterious medicine. Luanping says they have no reason to doubt Meng. Besides, they've already run out of options. The couple walks over to their daughter. Her mother hands her the medicine along with a glass of water. The little girl swallows it without hesitation while both parents nervously wait for something to happen. A few moments later, she suddenly opens her eyes. Smiling like nothing ever happened, she happily calls out to her mother. Then she points at her father and complains that her mom lied to her because he isn't a surgeon after all. As they realize their daughter has fully recovered, her mother immediately pulls her into a hug while Luanping quietly celebrates beside them. Standing near the door, Shin can't help wondering how her own parents are doing. Then something suddenly clicks. That medicine cured the little girl in less than a minute. Shin starts wondering if she accidentally joined something like the Umbrella Corporation. At this point, she's convinced Meng is capable of just about anything. Meanwhile, our guy climbs the stairs with an axe resting on his shoulder, ready for his next job. The system congratulates him for spending 20 points to save an employee's daughter. He clears the mission with a perfect rating and even unlocks a hidden achievement called Talented and Virtuous. Meng is so happy with the praise that he actually asks the system to compliment him more often. He then puts his newly earned stat points into Spirit, figuring nobody can question his mental state if his spirit keeps going up. Even so, he notices both his physique and spirit still have plenty of room to grow. As he reaches the top of the stairs, 2 zombies step into his path. Meng sighs and says the apocalypse has way too many employees, so it's time for another round of layoffs. One swing of the axe fires the first employee for terrible customer service. He rushes up the stairs and immediately lets the second one go for lacking basic professional skills. With both zombies taken care of, the path is finally clear. A few steps later, he hears movement behind a massive door. Grinning to himself, Meng says that's one enthusiastic welcome party. He stops outside the entrance, introduces himself as Meng from Peace and Order, and politely announces that he's here to help with the company's downsizing. The moment Meng steps into the office, another wave of zombies rushes him. Our guy slips between the attacks with ease, burying his axe into one zombie before turning around and dropping the next. The more they come at him, the bigger the smile on his face. A few moments later, the entire office is covered with the bodies of recently laid-off employees, and Meng proudly declares another successful round of downsizing. He stops outside Chief Lin's room and politely tells him not to celebrate just yet. Not far away, a familiar blonde man is hiding inside a fruit shop. It's Xuping, the former deputy manager of Wangxiang International. Looking at the zombie corpses outside, he smugly says nobody should have fought him over supplies. The apocalypse is perfect because now he can do whatever he wants. That confidence doesn't last very long. Someone outside suddenly shouts at 2 companions to hurry up, making Xuping peek through the window. The sight completely throws him off. A man is casually walking around with zombies like their co-workers. Then things somehow get even stranger when a fried chicken cart comes flying straight down the street. At this point, Bro is genuinely starting to wonder if he's the one who's gone crazy. Back outside, the system congratulates Meng for successfully firing every night shift employee at Wangxiang International. 3 new options immediately pop up, and he picks the first one without thinking twice so he can keep the operation moving. He almost spends his 1.5 stat points on agility, but decides to save them instead. After all, he won't be satisfied until the entire building is under Peace and Order's control. Just then, another notification appears. The leader of the sanitation and cleaning department's first team has finally arrived. Meng glances over at the flying fried chicken cart and realizes this guy literally delivers himself to work. A red-haired zombie steps out, and our guy immediately welcomes Li Xiang to the company before praising him for making the trip. Watching from the fruit shop, Xuping can only stare in disbelief. None of this makes any sense anymore. Meng wastes no time assigning Li Xiang his first task: clear every zombie from the 2nd and 3rd floors, then join the others and finish cleaning the building. Li Xiang immediately heads off to work as the newest employee and charges toward the building. Xuping quickly recognizes another zombie. It used to be one of the neighboring company's managers, making him even more curious about why these zombies obey Meng instead of attacking him. Sometime later, our guy walks through the freshly cleaned corridors and can't help smiling. The place is finally starting to look like an actual company instead of a zombie-infested office. As soon as he walks in, Luanping and his wife greet him with a respectful bow, thanking him for saving their family. Meng simply smiles and tells them the best way to repay him is by working hard. Even their daughter shyly thanks Uncle Meng. Luanping immediately corrects her. Someone this important shouldn't be called uncle. In his eyes, the boss deserves even more respect than that. The little girl quickly changes it to Grandpa Meng, making our guy laugh as he gently pats her on the head and tells her she's the future of the company. He even figures that after a little encouragement like this, any employee would happily volunteer for overtime. Before leaving, Meng reminds everyone that peace and order is only getting started and they'll all have plenty of work ahead of them. The family applauds while promising to do their best, and our guy tells everyone to get back to work because he's still got plenty of business to handle. Unfortunately, he barely takes a few steps before the system interrupts him with another notification. One of his employees has died in a workplace accident, and the compensation bill comes to a staggering 114 million yuan. For the first time in a long while, our guy completely loses it. The system quickly corrects itself. Since Zhang Tao wasn't human, the compensation drops to 380,000 yuan instead of 114 million. Our guy finally breathes again. Then another thought hits him. Someone just killed one of his employees. Instead of getting angry about the money, he's furious that someone dared touch his staff. He even makes a mental note to fire any employee before they die next time, so he won't have to pay compensation. Turning to everyone else, Meng announces that company veteran Zhang Tao has died on the job. According to him, Zhang Tao had been his right-hand man since before peace and order was even founded and stayed with him through the company's toughest days. He starts mourning dramatically before punching the wall and demanding to know who's responsible. Once everyone's gathered, he orders 200 pieces of fried chicken to be prepared. Meng warns the human employees not to go anywhere near the upper floors because he's about to go hunting. After all, if anyone's going to fire his employees, it's going to be him. Before heading out, he puts all of his remaining stat points into agility. Outside, zombies continue wandering through the streets like usual. Meng heads out with his 2 zombie bodyguards and orders them to clear the way. Li Xiang charges in first, crushing a zombie's skull with one punch before tearing straight through the horde. The rest of the zombies are thrown aside one after another until a path finally opens. That trail leads them straight to a small fruit shop. Inside, Xuping is still hiding among the bodies from the massacre he caused earlier. He's been staring at Zhang Tao's corpse, trying to figure out why that zombie was moving bodies instead of attacking people. Suddenly, someone starts banging on the shop's metal door. Xuping immediately tenses up. He carefully peeks through the curtains. The street is completely covered with zombie corpses. Somehow, every single one of them has been wiped out. Then he notices the person standing behind it. Axe in hand and covered in blood, Meng is calmly waiting outside. Xuping recognizes him immediately. It's the same guy who was walking around with zombies. His first thought is whether they've already discovered his hiding place. Outside, Meng realizes someone is hiding inside the exact shop where Zhang Tao died. He knocks on the door and politely asks them to open up because they need to discuss some important business. Hearing that, Xuping realizes the visitor is just another survivor. A menacing smile immediately appears on his face. If it's a human, then he knows exactly how to deal with them. He opens the door, apologizes for taking so long, and introduces himself as Xuping, the deputy director of Wangxiang International. Meng introduces himself as well, but he already knows this guy isn't trustworthy. After hearing Meng's surname, Xuping laughs and jokes that they were probably relatives 500 years ago. Our guy smiles and plays along. At the same time, he quietly activates reading people. The result confirms everything. Xuping is a mentally unstable killer who's only 4 victims away from leveling up. Pretending nothing's wrong, Xuping invites Meng inside, saying it's safer to talk indoors. He accepts without hesitation and walks right in. Xuping thinks the idiot actually fell for it. Instead, the moment they get inside, Meng drives a kick straight into his back. Xuping crashes onto the floor before he even realizes what happened. Meng plants a foot on his back and asks one simple question. Who gave him permission to kill one of his employees? Meng accuses Xuping of killing not just Lu from the fruit shop, but several other survivors in the alley as well. He pins the guy to the floor with his foot, gives him a hard kick, and says a beast like him doesn't deserve to carry the Meng name. Xuping immediately starts begging for his life. He insists he only killed to survive and even offers to become Meng's slave if he's spared. Instead of answering, Meng calmly reads him his rights and reminds him that everything he says can be used against him. Then he smiles and says everyone deserves a second chance. Right on cue, Chi-Wei walks through the door. Meng decides there's no need to keep talking. He tells Chi-Wei to start collecting fruit, while Li Xiang handles the rest. While they're busy, our guy helps himself to the store's supplies and walks out carrying a full box of apples. The system points out how quickly he manages to get himself into trouble and suggests creating a legal department. That instantly reminds him of the zombie lawyer upstairs. As far as Meng's concerned, he's the perfect person for the job. Before leaving, he tells Chi-Wei to forget the fruit and carry the mineral water instead. Just then, something about her catches his attention. She somehow looks a little prettier than before. The system immediately explains why. Chi-Wei has officially become a level 1 zombie cleaner. A roar suddenly echoes through the store. Li Xiang walks back, dragging Xuping behind him. The blonde is already turned into a zombie. Even after transforming, his favor toward Meng is still minus 100. That doesn't stop Meng from giving him a job. Xuping is officially appointed as Peace and Order's security service dog with a monthly salary of 8,000 yuan. His first assignment is to bring Zhang Tao's body downstairs and give him a proper burial. With everything settled, Meng heads back to the office. The staff immediately welcomes him, and Shun proudly reports that all 200 chicken strips are ready. She explains it was a team effort and asks if the department did a good job. Meng gives everyone a thumbs up and tells them they did great. Shun then says everyone already knows about Zhang Tao's death, and the whole office was heartbroken. Luanping's daughter even made several colorful paper cranes for Grandpa Meng. He thanks them for the thoughtful gesture, says Zhang Tao would have been happy to see them, and lets everyone know he's already avenged him. Luanping's wife quietly praises her husband for understanding exactly what the boss likes. He simply laughs and says he's just adapting to the situation. Since everyone's showing so much dedication, Meng gives them another assignment. He sends the others downstairs to carry the fruit and bottled water back upstairs. Then he asks Shun to come with him and collect the remaining chicken strips. Once they're alone in the hallway, Shun hesitantly calls out to him. She suddenly grabs his hand, catching our guy completely off guard. The moment she lets go, her palm is covered in blood. That's when she realizes Meng has been walking around injured this entire time. He acts like it's no big deal and tells her to prepare a contract for lawyer Zhang. Shun freezes for a second and asks if he's seriously talking about the zombie lawyer upstairs. Meng smiles and confirms it. The company's growing, and every proper business needs a legal department. Back at the office, Shun keeps working at her computer while Luanping and his wife clean the place. Watching from a distance, Luanping's wife notices Shun has been acting distracted ever since she came back from upstairs with Meng. Shun thought she was already used to his personality, but after everything that happened today, she's not so sure anymore. Just then, Meng claps his hands to get everyone's attention. It looks like he's got another announcement. He proudly introduces the company's newest legal department employee, lawyer Zhang, who peeks through the door looking as grumpy as ever. A system window pops up with the zombie lawyer's information, but Meng couldn't be happier with his newest hire. The lawyer responds with nothing but a growl. Our guy takes that as him happily accepting a pay cut. With introductions out of the way, Meng announces the team's next job. They're heading down to the underground parking garage to move the fruit they collected earlier. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, a white bus drives through the ruined streets carrying a group of rescued survivors under military protection. One of the passengers, Dean 1, breathes a sigh of relief after finally being rescued. Looking around the bus, he still can't believe the world collapsed overnight. That's when a young man sitting behind him introduces himself as Chun, an architecture student who once attended one of Wen's lectures. The conversation seems normal at first, but after shaking Wen's hand, Chun suddenly leans closer. His eyes begin glowing bright red as he quietly says he came here specifically to find him. Before anyone can react, Chun twists Wen's arm and drags him over, making the dean scream for help. A nearby soldier immediately rushes over to see what's happening. Chun coldly warns that if Wen doesn't die, his plan to cleanse the world can never be completed. More soldiers quickly surround him and demand to know what he just said. Instead of answering, Chun suddenly attacks one of them without warning. Another soldier raises his rifle and opens fire, but even after taking several bullets, Chun keeps running like nothing happened. He effortlessly leaps across the bus seats and charges toward the front of the vehicle. Before the driver can react, Chun punches him straight in the face. The driver is knocked unconscious, and the bus immediately spins out of control. The soldiers continue firing at him. Even with bullets tearing through his body, he barely seems affected. One of the soldiers grabs the steering wheel and desperately tries to regain control of the bus. Realizing the crash is unavoidable, he bails out at the last second. The bus flips over and slides across the street before finally coming to a stop. A moment later, Chun crawls out from the wreckage like the crash was nothing and casually wipes the blood from his mouth. One surviving soldier points his rifle at him and remembers the military's standing order: eliminate every rebel on sight. He opens fire again, unloading round after round until Chun is finally knocked off the roof of the bus. Even then, the guy slowly gets back to his feet, covered in blood as if the bullets barely mattered. The soldier can only stare in disbelief while more troops rush in and continue firing. Chun spreads his arms, ignores every bullet hitting him, and keeps walking forward with his eyes glowing red. A second later, he charges straight at the soldiers, and the fight breaks out again. Amid all the chaos, Dean quietly climbs over the overturned bus and watches the battle in complete shock. Realizing this is his only chance, he jumps down the other side and disappears into the darkness before anyone notices him. Meanwhile, at military headquarters, an officer receives another bad report. The latest rescue mission has failed. Turns out this isn't the first incident either. People have been disappearing from the safe zone for days, and zombie attacks are becoming more frequent. The military even captured one of the attackers, but during interrogation, he claimed everything was part of a test ordered by some mysterious ruler. The officer slams his fist on the table. To him, they're nothing more than another dangerous cult. The scary part is they look just like normal people, making them almost impossible to identify. Left with no better option, he orders several cities to be abandoned so the military can shrink the safe zone and defend a smaller perimeter. Leaning back in his chair, he lets out a tired sigh. Right now, they can only deal with one problem at a time. Back at peace and order, it's already nighttime, but nobody's clocking out anytime soon. Our guy is relaxing on the couch when the system congratulates him on completing another mission with a perfect score. He figures clients must be leaving reviews now, so maybe next time he'll try being a little nicer. That thought lasts about 2 seconds before he suddenly demands to know who left a bad review after the fried chicken sale. He grumbles that progress inside the building is way too slow. They still need more lawyers, and the president of Wangshang International is nowhere to be found. He announces that tomorrow's mission is happening outside the office. Shun hears him mention an outside assignment and immediately assumes he's talking about her. Instead, he tells her to prepare today's meeting minutes because he'll be leaving first thing in the morning. To keep everyone's morale high, he rolls in a tray piled with fried sausages. Once everyone gathers in the conference room, Meng announces a brand new company policy. To make the company international, the workday will start at 8 a.m. New York time and end at 5 p.m. Beijing time. Shin just stares at him before declaring that her boss is an absolute capitalist. Meng immediately calls for a vote. Anyone in favor should raise their hand. Then he casually adds that anyone who stays silent will also be counted as voting yes. Shin points out the obvious. That isn't a fair vote when almost everyone in the company is a zombie. Meng just chuckles and says she's thinking too small. As punishment, he demotes her to acting team leader. Shin can't even process what just happened. Meng explains that she needs to learn how to see the bigger picture. Shin realizes she just got completely played, but there's nothing she can do about it. Wrapping up the meeting, Meng reminds everyone he'll be away on business tomorrow. Luanping's wife immediately praises his incredible planning skills. Shin rolls her eyes and quietly labels the couple professional bootlickers. Meanwhile, our guy is loving every second of it. He officially ends the meeting and sends everyone back to work. As the room empties out, another system notification pops up. He's earned 14 attribute points. Without thinking twice, he dumps every single one into his diner owner profession. The profession instantly reaches level 2, boosting his dexterity, constitution, and spirit. The next morning, the city feels strangely quiet. Outside the company building, Meng gets his red sports car ready for another field assignment. Before he leaves, Luanping's daughter runs over and hands him a paper crane, wishing him a safe trip. He smiles, pats her on the head, and reminds her to study hard while Grandpa is away. Then he turns to Shun and appoints her head of the company's education department. The kid is completely confused. She can't believe they still have homework during a zombie apocalypse. Meng simply smiles and says schools won't close until the universe explodes. With that, he says goodbye, gets in the car, and drives off while everyone watches him leave. As he cruises through the city, he reviews today's objective. He's heading to the safe zone to recruit more lawyers for the company. The more he thinks about it, the more convinced he becomes that it's another flawless plan. Then the car suddenly jolts. Looking ahead, he spots someone lying right in the middle of the road. A second later, the figure stands up. It's a zombie with a license plate hanging from its chest. Instead of worrying about the monster, Meng complains about the damage to his car. He warns the zombie that it's about to get a one-way ticket to hell. Then he floors the accelerator and rams straight into it. The mutant goes flying across the road, but somehow it's still moving. Seeing that, Meng scans it with reading people. The system identifies it as a level 1 constitution type mutant zombie. He grabs his axe, steps out of the car, and sighs. Mutant zombies are starting to show up way too often. Looking at the creature, he tells it he's not accepting passengers today. Then our guy charges in swinging his axe. After a brutal exchange, he finally finishes the mutant with one last strike. Once the fight's over, he casually sits beside the corpse and pretends to make a phone call. Picking up his wrench, he tells the mutant that since it can't pay cash, it'll have to compensate him with crystals instead. Just then, he senses someone standing behind him. Turning around, he recognizes a blue-haired zombie named Xiaoqiu. He greets her like their old co-workers meeting again. Xiaoqiu only tilts her head and lets out a confused growl. Meng takes that as the perfect opportunity to recruit another employee and invites her to join the company. Our guy turns back to the mutant and digs through its skull for another crystal. This one's a yellow evolution crystal. The system identifies it as a constitution crystal, but there's a 70% chance it'll turn whoever eats it into a zombie. He immediately decides only a complete idiot would take those odds. While he's thinking about what to do with it, Xiaoqiu can't stop staring at the crystal like she really wants it. That gets him wondering what the difference is between gray-eyed zombies and red-eyed ones. Before long, something else catches his eye. His newest employee is absolutely covered in dirt. He buys a bottle of mineral water from the system, snaps his fingers, and the bottle instantly appears in his hand. Our guy walks over and starts cleaning her face, explaining that every employee in peace and order is expected to look presentable. Once her face is clean, he notices her clothes are a complete mess too. Just as he's about to fix that, the system warns him that changing a girl's clothes without permission counts as harassment. Bro immediately starts arguing with the system, insisting he's just helping an employee. The system isn't buying it. Silence doesn't mean consent. He's genuinely confused because, in his mind, helping an employee pick proper work clothes seems completely normal. Instead of arguing any further, he smashes the window of a nearby clothing store and takes Xiaoqiu inside. He picks out a new outfit for her, explaining that every respectable company has to maintain its image. After changing clothes and getting a new hairstyle, she looks like a completely different person, even if she still only responds with zombie growls. Our guy suddenly realizes he has no idea what size clothes she actually wears. Somehow, that earns him the gentleman achievement. The system rewards him with 5,000 cash and half a spirit point. Before he can celebrate, cries for help echo through the streets. He remembers there's a medical university nearby, and medical students could be valuable recruits. Pointing toward the noise, he tells Xiaoqiu to follow him. The two head through the ruined streets and soon spot a crowd of zombies chasing a group of survivors into a large building. Watching from a distance, he notices something strange. One of the survivors was getting attacked by a human. He tells Xiaoqiu to wait for his signal, then quietly circles behind the group with his axe in hand. Before anyone notices him, he buries the axe straight into one man's shoulder. The surprise attack throws the whole place into chaos, and our guy jumps in to wipe out the surrounding zombies. Once the fighting finally ends, the survivors are left standing among piles of zombie bodies. One injured man complains that he's been bitten, but the group's leader coldly says he was getting rid of dead weight anyway. That's when the leader finally notices the stranger standing there. Reading people instantly reveals the truth. They're genetically enhanced humans and a bunch of psychopathic killers. Instead of exposing them, our guy casually claims he's one of the chosen too and says the ruler sent him. The leader walks over with a suspicious look, saying he doesn't look like one of the chosen at all. He doesn't even let the guy finish talking. One clean swipe of his trusty axe sends another member of the group to the ground. The leader yells that he's a monster and demands to know why he attacked his own ally. Our guy just smiles and says it was all part of the ruler's plan. The purple-haired leader asks if he is one of the chosen, then technically they're supposed to be on the same side. He doesn't even answer the question. Instead, he asks if the guy's parents met because a gynecologist introduced them. The leader just stands there, completely confused by whatever that was supposed to mean. Bro loses his patience, swings the axe, and chops the man's hand clean off for asking too many questions. The guy screams in pain and swears he's going to kill him. He charges forward, then suddenly slams on the brakes. The next second, he turns around and makes a run for it. Our guy just watches him go and wonders why he's running now. He tells Xiaoqiu to cut him off, and she lands right in front of the fleeing man. The guy freezes. He finally realizes this lunatic can actually command zombies. Then he notices something even worse. The axe was poisoned. Xiaoqiu roars and sends him crashing to the ground with one heavy blow. The poison immediately starts spreading through his body, and his eyes begin to change. A few painful screams later, the transformation is complete. Just like that, another zombie joins the workforce. Our guy walks towards another guy and casually asks where their headquarters is. Then he suddenly remembers something important. The guy still hasn't paid for the fried sausage. He shoves the skewer into his face and demands his money. The poor dude tries to explain he doesn't have any money, but according to the boss, the customer already ate the product, so the payment is still due. For a second, the zombie thinks the conversation is over. Meng rams the skewers straight through his mouth until they punch out the back of his neck. He calmly asks if the customer was satisfied with the service. Safe to say there won't be a review this time. The system rewards him by upgrading his exemplar of the service industry achievement. After that, he checks the loot and finds 2 machetes, a bone cleaver, and a handmade short blade. Not bad at all. He decides the new weapons will be perfect for equipping his zombie employees. Satisfied with the haul, he starts walking away. A few steps later, something feels off. He turns around and spots Xiaoqiu crouching beside the corpse. The little zombie has already dug out the crystal and is about to eat it. Our guy instantly panics and yells at her to spit it out before she swallows it. Xiaoqiu takes off running with the crystal, and the two end up chasing each other around the hall. While running after her, he keeps reminding her that she's ignoring direct orders from the company president. He even threatens to ban her from getting any more crystals if she keeps acting like this. Eventually, both of them come to a stop. He lectures her for not following orders, saying a level 15 team leader should at least know how to listen to the boss. Even so, the whole incident proves something important. Zombies really can evolve on their own. Inside a shop, a group of thugs sits around playing cards while waiting for Brother Wong to return. One of them even says the winner gets first pick of the girl they've locked in the kitchen. Their little game comes to an end when footsteps echo from outside. One of them immediately tells everyone to grab their knives and get ready. A second later, the front door swings open. Our guy walks in with Xiaoqiu right behind him and casually asks if anyone wants to buy some fried sausages. The thugs burst out laughing, thinking fresh prey just delivered itself. Instead, they demand the sausages for free. Meng isn't having it. At peace and order, payment comes first. One of the thugs loses his temper, charges in with a knife, and threatens to cut him in half. Bro's expression instantly changes. He asks if they're seriously planning to eat without paying. Before the thug can react, one clean swing of the cleaver ends the conversation. Blood splashes across the room as the body hits the floor. Looking around, our guy lets out a disappointed sigh. Now he's down to only 2 customers. He turns toward the remaining thugs and starts pitching again, asking whether they'd like fried sausages or maybe a nice apartment instead. The 2 are so terrified they immediately agree to buy whatever he's selling. His attention shifts to the double doors leading deeper into the restaurant. The moment they open it, the mood completely changes. Skeletons hang from chains all over the room. Looking at the gruesome scene, he mutters that sacrificing people just to become one of the chosen is completely insane. Deeper inside, he finds an older man hanging upside down and a young girl tied up on the floor. Reading People identifies the old man as Professor Lao, who's currently unconscious. The girl is identified as Qin, one of the university students. Outside, zombies begin pounding against the restaurant windows. Ignoring the noise, our guy cuts the professor down and lets him drop safely to the floor. Then he sends Xiaoqiu downstairs with a new assignment. Hand out flyers, and if anyone refuses to buy housing, fire them. She lets out an excited growl and immediately heads off to work. Meanwhile, he kneels beside the frightened girl and removes the cloth from her mouth. Then he offers her 2 fried sausages for 3 yuan or an apartment if she'd prefer that instead. Qin tries to answer, but only broken sounds come out through her tears. Watching her struggle, our guy somehow concludes she's so touched by being rescued that she's already falling for him. He even offers to feed her himself. Qin just stares at the sausage with a completely blank expression. After another attempt to speak, he finally realizes the truth. She's deaf and mute. Feeling a little awkward, he apologizes for the misunderstanding, hands her the sausage, and tells her to eat slowly. Then he walks over to check on the professor. He grabs the old man by the shoulders and starts shaking him awake. The professor slowly opens his eyes, takes one look at the blood-covered man in front of him, and screams. Then he immediately passes out again. Our guy just sits there wondering if he really looks that scary. After thinking it over, he convinces himself the professor must have fainted because he was overwhelmed with gratitude, and Qin was obviously crying tears of joy. Satisfied with that explanation, he introduces himself as the president of peace and order and tells them there's nothing to worry about. Right then, Xiaoqiu comes back, and he praises her for finishing the flyer distribution so quickly. Qin is absolutely horrified. The blood-covered zombie standing beside him definitely doesn't look like an employee. He calmly explains that Xiaoqiu is just another member of the company, so there's no reason to be scared. Finally, he asks the girl for her name. She hesitates for a moment before quietly introducing herself as Qin, and our guy lights up when he realizes she can speak a little after all. After a few solid slaps, the professor finally wakes up. Before the poor guy can even process what's happening, our guy shoves a real estate flyer right in his face. He starts pitching a luxury apartment for just 100,000 yuan, complete with a permanent job as a bonus. The professor turns to Qin and asks if this is all just some weird dream. She quietly tells him every bit of it is real. Meng offers Qin an internship. Since she's a medical student, he decides it's the perfect time to create the company's medical department. That announcement somehow scares the professor and Qin even more. Meng just smiles and tells them everything will work itself out right after they buy the apartment. Then he invites both of them to the sales office to sign the paperwork. The professor awkwardly admits he left his bank card at home. As they head upstairs, the professor asks if they can at least get a weapon for protection. Meng immediately gets suspicious and asks why they want to walk in front. He even accuses them of trying to scam him into paying insurance before they've signed their employment contracts. Deciding everyone's ready, Meng leads the group outside. Qin quietly starts questioning whether her savior is actually sane and wonders if she's about to lose her mind too. Reaching the entrance, Meng smashes the glass door with a few heavy swings. He even pauses to compliment the quality of the glass. Qin suggests slipping out through the back instead. Meng immediately rejects the idea. He's lived an honest life and isn't about to sneak around like a rat. With one final kick, he blows the entire doorway open and steps into the street. A huge crowd of zombies is already waiting outside. Meng casually announces that the restaurant is closed for today. Then he declares that everyone still has to accept a real estate flyer. A stack of flyers goes flying into the air as they rain down over the zombies. Before anyone can react, our guy charges straight into the horde with his axe. Zombies start dropping left and right as he slices through them one after another. By the time he's finished, he's standing in the middle of the street completely covered in blood. Watching the whole thing, Qin and the professor finally accept that this guy is definitely not normal. A little later, they arrive at the real estate sales office. The place is a complete mess, with debris scattered all over the building. Meng looks around and casually asks if anybody's still working here. The only answer he gets is complete silence. Right then, the system announces that his real estate agent profession has officially been completed. After washing the blood off his face, he walks back over and hands the professor a purchase agreement. The professor looks down at the paperwork and can't help asking if this is really how people buy apartments. Before Meng can answer, a giant success notification pops up from the system. Turns out he just completed another temporary mission for distributing promotional materials. The professor flips through the contract and immediately notices how unbelievably unprofessional it looks. Meng puts the documents away and says he still has a few things to finish first. He tells them he'll come back and pick them up after work. The professor looks completely confused and asks if they're supposed to wait here or head back to the restaurant. Meng says he'll drive them home once his shift is over. Hearing that, both survivors just stare at him. They genuinely can't understand why this guy is still following office hours during the apocalypse. Meng casually explains that real estate is only his part-time job anyway. He tells them to find a corner, stay put, and wait quietly. Then he walks back outside and checks the street. By now, the noise has attracted another massive horde of zombies. Meng tosses dozens of contracts into the air and tells the entire crowd it's time to sign. Then he literally starts grabbing zombies one by one, shoving pins into their hands, and forcing them to sign the paperwork. Somehow it actually works. The system announces that he's successfully sold 2 apartments. While checking the rewards, Meng notices his new title makes potential customers much friendlier. He also unlocks another hidden achievement for earning his very first title, giving him extra cash and experience points. Wanting to grow even faster, he dumps all 12 points into his clerk intern profession. Just as he's about to leave, he suddenly remembers the professor and Qin. With business wrapped up, our guy gets ready to drive them back to the restaurant. As they continue through the city, the professor quietly whispers to his student that maybe their president isn't such a bad person after all. Meanwhile, our guy heads toward another part of the city on his own. A red-eyed zombie suddenly appears in a dark alley. The creature barely has time to react before an axe crashes into its head, dropping it instantly. Kneeling beside the corpse, Meng notices something strange. The zombies around this area seem much stronger than the ones he's fought before. He also spots a bullet wound in its shoulder and figures the military must have already swept through here. A little later, he arrives at another office building. He tells Xiaoqiu to scout ahead and deal with any zombies she finds inside. Just then, 2 glowing red eyes appear in the darkness. A zombie woman suddenly lunges at him with incredible speed. He barely blocks the attack with his axe, but the impact still sends him sliding across the floor. Even our guy looks surprised by how powerful she is. Looking closer, he notices she's wearing a business suit with a lawyer's badge. The system immediately identifies her as Liao. a level 5 power-type mutant zombie. That explains why she nearly knocked him across the room with a single punch. Even so, he doesn't seem too worried and swings his axe right back at her. While they're fighting, Xiaoqiu quietly sneaks around behind Liao. Meng lets out a sigh, already knowing exactly what she's after. She's definitely more interested in the evolution crystals in his pocket than the actual fight. Instead of killing Liao, he suddenly decides he'd rather recruit her. After all, a zombie lawyer who works around the clock sounds like a pretty good employee. Then he opens the hiring panel and almost chokes when he sees the salary she's asking for. Liao expects 80,000 yuan a month. It hurts his wallet just looking at it, but he hires her anyway, convincing himself that talented employees are worth the investment. The system confirms the recruitment and immediately reveals Liao's hidden desires. She somehow has 4 different demands, making her the greediest employee he's hired so far. Liao suddenly slaps Xiaoqiu across the face. The poor zombie goes flying backward and crashes into an office desk. Seeing his employees fighting each other, Meng immediately steps in to stop them. He warns Liao that working for the company doesn't make her immune to punishment. That's when another one of his ridiculous ideas pops into his head. Instead of fighting, he starts throwing random legal questions at Liao. He asks things like whether refusing cash payments breaks the law, then keeps firing off even stranger legal scenarios. Liao actually starts paying attention instead of attacking. Somehow, every bizarre question makes her like him even more. A second later, it maxes out and unlocks a hidden reward. The system grants Meng a charm aura that's effective against female creatures. Seeing everything work out perfectly, he officially appoints Liao as the head of Peace and Order's legal department. Liao immediately walks over and hugs him without warning. Before he can even react, Xiaoqiu joins the hug too. Both zombie employees end up clinging to their boss thanks to the charm aura. Our guy can't help wondering if this ability will work on every female zombie he meets from now on. The system shows that Meng's new charm aura still has 23 hours and 50 minutes left. Realizing the effect lasts a full day, he proudly concludes that no female zombie will be able to resist him during that time. Thankfully, it only boosts affection instead of making them hungrier for human flesh. Then he sighs, wishing he'd unlocked this ability before the apocalypse. He could have lived like the protagonist of a harem anime. Meanwhile, both zombie girls continue staring at him with hearts practically in their eyes. Deciding to ignore it, Meng lies down to get some sleep and tells them not to fall for him too hard. Girls should stay pure and innocent. A while later, he suddenly wakes up feeling something wrapped around him. Opening his eyes, he finds Xiaoqiu and Liao lying in bed beside him, both hugging him as tightly as they can. Knowing it's the charm aura's fault, he simply gives up and tries to go back to sleep. But loud banging suddenly echoes through the building. Grumbling to himself, Meng gets out of bed and heads downstairs to see who's making all that noise. Outside the entrance, a lone zombie is desperately trying to break through the front door. Seeing it's just a male zombie, Meng immediately loses interest. Before he can even react, Liao walks forward. With a single punch, she smashes the zombie's head, spraying blood everywhere. Watching the brutal scene, Meng breaks into a cold sweat and quietly reminds himself that he prefers winning people over with virtue. With the problem solved, everyone heads back upstairs. Meng tells his employees to get some sleep and remember to lock the front door properly next time. The next morning, our guy heads to the bathroom. Naturally, both zombie girls follow him inside. They just stand there watching while he awkwardly faces the wall. After a long silence, Meng finally snaps and asks if they're seriously planning to watch him use the toilet. He checks the system and realizes the charm aura still has 14 hours left. Letting out a helpless sigh, he gives up arguing and heads outside. Once they're back on the street, he orders the girls to stop staring at him and start working instead. He tells his employees to stop attacking zombies for now, because today's priority is handing out advertisements. Both girls immediately stop moving and obediently follow his order. To reward their good behavior, Meng casually promises that once they get home, they'll be allowed to do whatever they want with him. The 2 zombie girls instantly light up with excitement. Meanwhile, our guy continues promoting apartments like nothing is out of the ordinary. He even shoves a flyer into a zombie's face before continuing through the streets, scattering advertisements everywhere. Eventually, he notices survivors hiding inside a nearby store. Knocking on the window, he politely announces that he has a business proposal for them. Inside, 3 frightened survivors mistake him for another bloodthirsty lunatic and stay perfectly still. One of the men quietly tells everyone not to move, hoping he'll eventually leave. But the only woman in the group suddenly feels the effects of Meng's charm aura. She finds him strangely attractive. Ignoring the others' panicked warnings, she walks over and opens the door herself. The system immediately notifies Meng that his charm aura is affecting nearby survivors. The woman blushes the moment she meets his eyes. Meng simply asks if they know anything about the bodies with gunshot wounds he saw outside. One of the men explains that several evacuation buses were attacked and overturned by mutated zombies before they could reach safety. Thanking them for the information, Meng politely says he won't disturb them any longer and walks away. As soon as he leaves, the system announces that his leaflet distribution mission is complete. He receives a cash reward, levels up to level 5, and his president profession also reaches level 2. Along with the level up, he unlocks a new ability that lets him sense danger. After putting his new stat points away, a golden light surrounds his body as the upgrade finishes. But before he can celebrate, the system immediately assigns him another mission. His next objective is to help 83 homeless people wandering the streets. Meng says he can't just stand by and watch so many homeless people suffer. Since the system wants him to help them, he'll simply put them out of their misery. With that completely backwards logic, he orders his 2 employees to get to work. Liao is the first to move, crushing a zombie's face with a single punch. Xiaqiu joins in right behind her, sending another infected flying with one brutal hit. The survivors watching from nearby are completely dumbfounded and start wondering if this guy has completely lost his mind. Meanwhile, Meng keeps arguing with the system, insisting that eliminating the homeless should count as helping them. To his surprise, the mission counter actually starts going down. Realizing his loophole worked, our guy grins and declares that he'll help every homeless zombie he can find. Under his commands, the 2 zombie girls tear through the entire horde without slowing down. The system declares the mission a perfect success and rewards Meng with points along with a bizarre new title, Charity Vanguard. The survivors can only stare in disbelief after watching dozens of zombies get wiped out like they were nothing. One of them quietly concludes that the 3 of them are completely insane. After finishing the cleanup, Meng heads toward the overturned evacuation bus. The closer he gets, the more obvious it becomes that a massacre took place there. He taps the bus with the handle of his axe a few times, trying to lure out anything still hiding inside. Sure enough, an infected soldier suddenly bursts through the shattered window. Meng puts it down almost instantly before searching the corpse for anything useful. This time his luck is pretty good, because he finds a fully loaded pistol. Looking around the bus, though, he can't find a single rifle. He quickly figures someone must have looted the place before he arrived. Seeing the bodies of the fallen soldiers scattered everywhere, Meng decides they deserve a proper funeral. He pulls out one of his real estate flyers, lights it with a lighter, and tosses it onto the bodies. Since they're already covered in fuel, the entire area erupts into flames almost immediately. Meng quietly says that returning to dust is much better than wandering around as a zombie. With the funeral over, he gives his employees a new assignment. Their next target is the mutant responsible for destroying the evacuation convoy. Both zombie girls nod and immediately follow him as they leave the burning bus behind. They haven't gone very far when the system suddenly detects a high-level medical specialist within a 3-kilometer radius. Meng pauses for a second to think about it. His original mission comes first, but if this new employee is on the way, there's no reason not to recruit them too. He lets out another sigh, wishing his zombie employees would respond with something other than growls. Even so, the group keeps moving through the abandoned streets. Soon a glowing route appears on the ground, marking the location of the new recruit. Excited about another hiring opportunity, Meng tells the girls they're about to welcome a new colleague. The trio eventually arrives outside what looks like a massive hospital complex. But the moment Meng reaches the entrance, he suddenly stops. The courtyard is crawling with zombies, and every single one of them immediately notices the newcomers. As the infected slowly turn toward them, one figure catches Meng's attention. Standing calmly on top of an ambulance is an elderly woman wearing a doctor's coat. Meng immediately activates his appraisal skill to check her status. The system identifies her as a level 6 spirit-type mutated zombie, making her the strongest zombie he's encountered so far. The moment the doctor notices them, she lets out a piercing scream that alerts every zombie in the hospital yard. Meng tells Liao and Xiaqiu to stay close and keep pushing forward. After checking the doctor's stats, he guesses she used to work in psychiatry. Since her specialty is spirit, he immediately decides someone like her would be a valuable employee. Meng even shouts that getting hired by peace and order isn't easy, hoping she'll appreciate the opportunity. Unfortunately, the recruitment speech has absolutely no effect. So our guy decides to try out his newly acquired pistol instead. He aims straight at the doctor's head, pulls the trigger, and the gun immediately jams. Meng can only stare at it in disbelief as the system criticizes him for disturbing the zombies for no reason. Instead of attacking, the doctor starts staring at Meng with hearts in her eyes after falling under the effect of his charm aura. The ordinary zombies aren't affected, and the entire horde charges straight toward him. Realizing another female zombie has fallen for their boss, Liao and Xiaqiu immediately step in front of him. The two girls glare at the doctor before charging into the horde without waiting for orders. Liao is the first to strike, cleanly taking a zombie's head off with one blow. Xiaqiu follows right behind her, tearing through anything that gets close to Meng. Meanwhile, Meng finally gets his pistol working and starts firing into the crowd. One zombie drops after another as his shots clear a path through the horde. A bullet then slams directly into the doctor's right eye, sending her crashing beside the ambulance. Meng announces that they all have 1 minute to surrender. He even tells them to think carefully before ending up like their fallen friends. Then he skips straight to the final second himself. Swinging his axe, he instantly decapitates the nearest zombie. While cutting through the horde, Meng suddenly asks the system if these zombies count as homeless people. Just then, the zombie doctor lets out another deafening scream and charges at him. Meng looks completely unimpressed and asks why she's screaming so much. He even wonders if she thinks she's some kind of singer. Declaring himself the true king of music, he swings his axe one last time. The doctor's body collapses to the ground. As her head splits open, a glowing crystal drops out along with the gore. The system immediately identifies it as a basic spirit evolution crystal. Holding the crystal in his hand, Meng quietly studies it before turning to look at his two blood-covered employees. Looking down at his blood-soaked clothes, Meng lets out an annoyed sigh. Every fight ends with him needing a whole new outfit. Since they're already out, he decides it's the perfect time to do a little shopping. Before long, the trio arrives at a high-end luxury mall. Taking a deep breath, Meng smiles and says you can really feel the difference in places that cater to rich people. Even the air feels expensive. As they wander through the deserted stores, he figures he might as well pick up a few souvenirs. A thick gold chain immediately catches his eye. Judging by the quality, he guesses it's worth several 100,000 yuan. Even though the system doesn't care about money anymore, he happily hangs it around his neck anyway. Meng then turns towards Xiaqiu and Liao, announcing that company employees should also enjoy corporate benefits. Wrapping an arm around both of them, he leads them upstairs to freshen up and change into something more presentable. The trio soon arrives at the clothing section. Meng's eyes immediately lock onto a stylish trench coat displayed on a mannequin. Without wasting any time, he tears off his ruined shirt and puts it on. The coat fits him perfectly. To make sure it's practical, he gives his axe a few practice swings. Satisfied that it doesn't restrict his movement at all, Meng happily decides it'll be his new work outfit. With his own shopping finished, it's time to upgrade his employees. The two zombie girls obediently sit on the floor while Meng starts cleaning them up. He carefully wipes the blood and dirt off Xiaqiu's face until she's spotless again. Looking at her, he jokes that after spending so much time alone, even a zombie's blush looks kind of cute. He laughs that a professional stylist would charge a fortune for this, but luckily, his charity work is free. To finish the makeover, Meng places a necklace around Xiaqiu's neck. Stepping back to admire his work, he proudly announces that she's become even prettier. Then he turns to Liao and says it's her turn. After another round of cleaning and a fresh set of clothes, her makeover is complete as well. A little while later, all three of them are wearing brand new outfits. Leaning back proudly, Meng declares that this is exactly how a successful business executive should look. Finally, he takes out all the evolution crystals they've collected and spreads them across his palm. Meng realizes these are only beginner-level crystals, meaning there must also be intermediate, advanced, superior, and even universal versions. Smiling to himself, he decides he'll use every resource carefully so he can keep earning merits and eventually become a true saint. The next day, Meng and his two zombie employees continue making their way through the city, with the girls carrying bags full of supplies behind him. Looking at his team, Meng proudly declares that with companions like these, he'd have no problem surviving any survival game. As they walk through a quiet street, he suddenly spots a legless zombie sitting alone beside the road. Feeling unusually generous, Meng walks over and hands it a 5 yuan bill, telling it to buy something nice to eat. The zombie stares at the money for a second, its red eyes glowing brighter and brighter. But instead of thanking him, it suddenly lunges straight at him. Meng reacts instantly, bringing his axe down in one clean swing that splits the zombie's head apart. Looking down at the corpse, he sighs and reminds it that damaging money is a crime before wishing it better luck in its next life. With that little incident over, the trio continues through the deserted streets. Meng notices something strange. There are far fewer zombies around than usual. Passing a nearby parking lot, he spots a car that's still in surprisingly good condition. One swing of his axe shatters the driver's window. He unlocks the door from the inside before calling the girls over. Meng announces that today's employees get to enjoy company transportation. A short while later, the three of them are driving through the abandoned city. They eventually leave the ruined neighborhoods behind and enter an upscale residential district. Looking at the luxurious villas lining the streets, Meng can't help being impressed. He quietly promises himself that one day he'll buy a house in a place like this. The moment he says that, the system immediately pops up with a new real estate mission. Meng glares at the screen and accuses the system of deliberately trying to tempt him. Even so, he has to admit that everyone dreams of owning a nice house and a good car. A few minutes later, the car comes to a stop in front of an enormous luxury mansion. Meng scratches his chin, surprised that such an expensive neighborhood is completely silent. He even starts wondering whether the cleaners around here have all stopped coming to work. Then another business idea pops into his head. If he rented out Peace and Order's cleaning department to this neighborhood for 200,000 yuan a month, the company would have a steady source of income. Pleased with the idea, the trio continues exploring the neighborhood on foot. One empty mansion after another comes into view, yet not a single resident can be seen anywhere. Meng carefully scans the quiet houses, hoping to spot even the slightest sign of movement. What he doesn't realize is that someone has already noticed him and is secretly watching from behind a curtain. By the time evening arrives, the entire neighborhood is still eerily quiet. Meng wonders if every rich person here went to work or somehow ascended to heaven together. Just then, something unusual catches his eye at the end of the street. A group of people dressed in white robes are gathered around several wooden crosses set up in a mansion's garden. At the center of the gathering, a wounded man is tied to one of the crosses. Meng has no idea what kind of ceremony this is, but one thing's for sure, it looks creepy. He activates his skill and scans one of the robed figures. The system immediately identifies their leader as Wu Zhang, the president of another organization. His profile is packed with achievements, making Meng joke that his own HR department would reject a resume this long. Figuring this guy belongs to the same cult he's been hearing about, Meng walks over to greet him. Instead of pretending to be one of the chosen, he simply introduces himself with a fake name and starts chatting. Wu Zhang slowly opens his eyes before smiling at him. He praises Meng's aura and says he looks like a true messenger of God. Hearing that, Meng immediately realizes the man already knows he's using a fake name. Deciding to play along, he asks what exactly this strange ceremony is supposed to accomplish. Wu Zhang calmly explains that he's spreading his master's teachings and building a bridge between humanity and the divine. Meng immediately asks if those teachings also involve eating people. Wu Zhang frowns and calls that nothing more than heresy. Meng keeps pressing him, asking whether following this path means abandoning money, anger, and worldly desires. Wu Zhang replies that money itself is meaningless. The true sacrifice is giving up whatever matters most. Then he points toward the people tied to the crosses and proudly says they sacrificed their own wives and children to achieve enlightenment. A second later, he tilts his head and asks if Meng might have some kind of mental illness. Meng's smile instantly disappears. He calmly warns Wu Zhang that he'll kill him if he keeps preaching this nonsense. Right then, Meng suddenly feels an overwhelming wave of drowsiness wash over him. Even while raising his pistol, he realizes Wu Zhang's ability is affecting his mind. Wu Zhang confidently declares that everything happening here is the will of his master. Meng couldn't care less. He says he'd rather trust his own actions than some fake god before pulling the trigger. The first shot tears through Wu Zhang's shoulder. Meng admits his aim still needs a lot of practice. Wu Zhang desperately tries to dodge the next few bullets, but another round slams into his leg. Clutching the wound, he screams that Meng will soon face his master's wrath. Meng slowly walks over and sarcastically tells him to hurry up and transform into some armored superhero already. In desperation, Wu Zhang raises both hands toward the sky and begs his beloved master to save him. The next second, an enormous shadow suddenly falls over Meng. A gigantic muscular zombie crashes down beside them with a deafening roar. Staring at the monster's ridiculous size, Meng can't help asking if this thing is some ancient king brought back from the dead. Before he can joke any further, the system flashes a bright warning across his vision. The creature is identified as a level 10 zombie. He is stunned by the overwhelming size difference between himself and his new opponent. The giant zombie slowly rises to its full height and lets out a terrifying roar. Meng immediately realizes this isn't an ordinary mutant. A level 10 monster like this could wipe out an entire city. The giant charges straight toward them, making the ground shake with every step. It raises one massive foot right beside Wu Zhang, then stomps down, crushing one of the cultists without a second thought. Wu Zhang bursts into hysterical laughter, convinced they're all about to die together. But instead of attacking Meng, the giant suddenly looks at him with hard eyes. The charm effect worked on it too. Meng quickly steps back, grips his new axe, and gets ready to fight. Xiaoqiu and Liao rush in from both sides, their claws tearing into the giant's chest. Using their attack as an opening, Meng spins his axe and builds up momentum. One clean swing slices off every finger on the monster's hand. Then he leaps into the air for the finishing blow. The axe comes crashing down right through the top of the giant's skull. The monster is split clean in half before collapsing into a lake of blood. Looking at the corpse, Meng jokes that illegal logging really should be banned. Lying on the ground, Wuzhong stares in complete disbelief. He asks what kind of monster Meng really is. He says he'll spare Wuzhong's life if he tells him who this so-called master really is. Wuzhong admits he has no idea. After the apocalypse started, he simply understood what he had to do. Hoping to survive, he offers to transfer all his assets to Luanping's name. Meng immediately cuts him off. He refuses to let one employee casually inherit an entire company. Instead, he hands Wuzhong a pen and tells him to write everything down properly. Terrified, Wuzhong signs the papers without another word. Once the paperwork is finished, Meng quietly turns around and starts walking away. He reminds Wuzhong that he promised not to kill him personally. Then he smiles and adds that he never said someone else couldn't do it. The next second, Xiaoqiu drives her claws straight through Wuzhong's chest. The system immediately announces that the president of Wangshan International has been defeated. Meng proudly calls the system a financial scammer for making things so complicated. Since the contract isn't legally valid and Wuzhong's hostility is too high, the property transfer fails. Watching the body, Meng remembers that genetically enhanced humans are supposed to become powerful zombies after death. He's never actually seen that transformation happen before. Right on cue, Wuzhong's corpse suddenly starts twitching. Green veins spread across his body as he mutates into a level 8 spirit-type zombie. Before it can even stand up, Meng buries his axe in its body and says it was never qualified to join his company anyway. After dealing with him, Meng casually offers 300,000 yuan for the mansion and accepts Wuzhong's silence as agreement. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he proudly declares this to be the proper way to legalize assets. The system then notifies him that his sanity contract has been extended. Looking over his stats, Meng realizes his spirit attribute is still lagging behind everything else. Pulling out the psychiatrist assistant's business card, he seriously considers booking himself an appointment. Staring at the business card in his hand, Meng frowns in confusion. He can't even remember where he got it from or who gave it to him in the first place. Instead of overthinking it, he walks over to the giant zombie's corpse. Pulling out a wrench, he starts digging through the cracked skull. After a bit of effort, he finally pries out a glowing blue evolution crystal. Meng pockets the crystal and decides the memory gap isn't worth worrying about right now. He crouches beside one of the cult members and pokes him in the face with a stick, telling him to wake up. But the man doesn't react at all. Meng smacks him across the face. The slap is so hard it sends the poor guy tumbling onto the ground. Even then, the cultist refuses to say a single word. Looking around at the others, Meng starts wondering if they're all dead. Then it hits him that every one of them is connected to the Chosen. Just thinking about that creepy group gives him goosebumps. At this point, he's almost convinced that he's the natural enemy of this so-called master. As far as Meng is concerned, people can worship whoever they want. He'll stick with the one true bodhisattva of the fire axe. With that settled, the trio heads over to Wuzhong's mansion. The moment Meng walks inside, he can't help admiring the luxurious interior. Wuzhong may have been insane, but the guy definitely knew how to live. The huge living room, expensive furniture, and massive open space are right up Meng's alley. He immediately dives face first onto the enormous bed. Laughing like a kid, he declares that this is what peak human life is supposed to look like. Throwing open the curtains, he lets sunlight flood the room before announcing that they're spending the night here. Stretching across the bed, Meng admits he hasn't felt this comfortable in ages. Then he notices something strange. The charm aura should have expired by now, yet Xiaoqiu and Liao still climb into bed and hug him anyway. The next morning, the system congratulates him for reaching another ideal life milestone. Along with experience and stat points, he unlocks a new home bonus. As long as he lives in a clean house, he'll receive random daily buffs. Hearing that, Meng immediately starts thinking about moving the company's headquarters into the mansion. The system quickly reminds him that a company is for work, while a home is meant for relaxing. Standing by the window, Meng stretches his back and enjoys the morning sunlight. Then he waves at Xiaoqiu and Liao, calling his vice president and department manager over for their morning training session. The three of them jog through the quiet neighborhood together. Along the way, Meng happily greets an imaginary neighbor. Then he asks the system whether greeting people counts as proper social interaction. Meng knocks out a quick set of push-ups. He finishes with a few stretches before calling his morning workout complete. Later, while relaxing on a park bench, he dumps 30 experience points into his clerk trainee profession. Feeling refreshed, Meng smiles to himself. As far as he's concerned, his mental state has never been better. Back at the villa entrance, a huge crowd of zombies gathers outside, making enough noise to wake the dead. Clearly annoyed, Meng grabs his axe and marches outside to see what all the yelling is about. After giving it some thought, he decides not to kill them after all. Zombies make great flyer distributors, and they're even better at scaring potential customers. With that brilliant business idea in mind, the trio heads back onto the ruined highway. Before they get very far, a red-eyed zombie suddenly charges at Meng. He casually sidesteps the attack and scolds it for not watching where it's going. Then he signals Xiaoqiu and Liao to deal with the problem. Just then, a yellow school bus parked nearby catches his attention. Meng figures managing multiple departments would be a lot easier with proper company transportation. He climbs into the driver's seat to inspect the vehicle, but sees the inside covered in blood and the ignition keys are nowhere to be found. Meng sighs and jokes that the plot just got a whole lot more complicated. He orders the two zombie girls to split up and find the driver, but neither of them moves an inch. After waiting for a few awkward seconds, Meng mutters that his employees could at least pretend to respect their boss. Finally, he threatens that if they keep standing around, neither of them gets to sleep beside him tonight. That gets an immediate reaction. Both girls dash off at full speed to search the area. Watching them leave, Meng reflects on how exhausting it is to run a startup. Everything eventually falls back onto the boss's shoulders. Luckily, the search doesn't take long. Xiaoqiu soon finds the former driver lying on the ground with a set of keys still in his hand. Meng scans the corpse with his skill. The system confirms the driver is dead, but somehow still gives him an excellent reliability rating. Then he swings his axe, making sure there's no chance the driver gets back up. Finally, he picks up the bloodstained keys. They honestly look more like the keys to a safe than a bus, but he decides to take them anyway. At this point, Meng decides Xiaoqiu is definitely more dependable than the easily distracted Liao. A little later, he's back behind the wheel. The engine finally roars to life, and the yellow school bus rolls through the empty city streets. Smiling to himself, Meng says anyone who drives a bus like this is destined to stand out from the crowd. The system praises his driving skills and rewards him for operating another company vehicle. A lone zombie soon wanders into the middle of the road, blocking the bus. Meng clicks his tongue, wondering how this guy had the confidence to stand between him and company profits. He floors the accelerator, and the zombie is launched high into the air as the bus keeps rolling like nothing happened. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, the professor and Sheen are still waiting for their crazy boss to return. Out of nowhere, a yellow school bus pulls up right outside the entrance. The professor honestly can't believe Meng came back. The bus doors open, and Meng casually greets everyone. Sheen nervously peeks inside the bus only to find zombies sitting quietly in their seats like ordinary passengers. At the same time, Meng yells at Wu Zhang, reminding him that eating people is strictly forbidden in his company. The system immediately congratulates him for successfully applying management theory. The professor and Sheen can only stand there in stunned silence, as everything happening in front of them completely shatters their understanding of reality. Meng simply tells them to relax, explaining that the zombies are still in their employee training period. The professor breaks into a cold sweat, struggling to process the fact that these monsters actually have intelligence. Sheen is convinced she's completely lost it. Working alongside zombies somehow feels normal now, which is honestly the craziest part. Meng hops behind the wheel, adjusts his sunglasses, tells everyone to hold on, and floors it. Just then, the system detects a high-level architect within a 3-kilometer radius. Out on the road, a badly injured man named Wen staggers forward, forcing himself to keep moving because stopping means dying. Hearing the bus engine, he desperately waves his arms and begs the driver to stop. Meng opens the bus doors, and the bright light pouring out makes Wen feel like an angel has just arrived to save him. Meng welcomes him aboard, introduces peace and orders official company shuttle, and confidently invites him to check the place out. That hope lasts exactly 2 seconds. The moment Wen steps inside, he finds himself face to face with 3 zombies and instinctively tries to run back out. Before he can escape, another zombie rushes toward the entrance, but Meng casually shoots it in the forehead and blows the smoke off his pistol like it's just another Tuesday. Our guy calmly asks Wen if he knows who he's standing in front of. With that settled, the bus gets moving again, plowing straight through every zombie unlucky enough to stand in its way. Meng drifts the bus across the road like he's filming an action movie, while zombie bodies go flying in every direction. Wen is absolutely terrified, but the professor tells him to relax because the president somehow always has everything under control. Wen isn't buying it for a second. The professor is acting confident, but he's sweating buckets. Before long, the bus pulls up outside the Peace and Order headquarters. Meng steps out first and loudly announces that anyone blocking his company's entrance or owing him money should clear out immediately. The zombies surrounding the building all turn toward him, and our guy charges straight into the crowd without a second thought. Watching Meng tear through the horde with his axe, one can't understand who decided that only people blessed by the light could be called heroes. A few minutes later, the entrance is completely cleared, and Meng tells everyone to get off the bus because interviews are about to begin. Just then, Shuping lets out a quiet growl from the side. Meng immediately boots him across the floor, furious that he couldn't even deal with a few dozen zombies guarding the entrance. First, he fines him 100 yuan for attacking an employee, then changes his mind and bumps it up to 1,000 on the spot. 1. Chin, and the professor can only stare in disbelief. Bro is out here giving HR penalties to zombies. Completely ignoring their reactions, Meng orders everyone to get ready for the interviews. Upstairs, he promotes Luanping to head of HR and tells him to start working immediately. Remembering some bizarre interview tricks he once saw online, Meng decides to test his new recruit the same way. A knock soon comes from outside, and Meng calls the candidate in. When nervously walks into the office, still clutching his injured arm as he looks around in confusion. Instead of asking about his experience, Meng opens the interview with a completely random question about a piece of trash lying on the floor. One is left completely speechless, unable to figure out what kind of answer his new boss is even looking for. With the first interview over, one moves on to the next stage and heads to the HR department. The poor guy quickly realizes this company takes hiring way too seriously. Meng keeps throwing one question after another, asking about his family, whether he knows how to play bridge, his work history, expected salary, and even how he injured his arm. One starts wondering if the apocalypse is even real anymore, because this feels more like applying to a Fortune 500 company. Passing through the hallway, he even spots a zombie casually mopping the floor, making him realize just how absurdly well-organized peace and order really is. Holding onto his injured arm, one silently hopes they'll at least be able to treat him if he gets hired. Later, everyone gathers in the conference room where Meng goes over the salary package. The position actually pays 8,000 yuan a month, but one won't receive a single yuan during his first 3 months. One can't understand how redirecting his entire salary toward medical treatment somehow counts as an internship. But Meng thinks it makes perfect sense. As far as he's concerned, company money should always stay with the company. After that, our guy heads to the Evolution Crystal Lab, which is really just the old cafeteria with a much cooler name. He pulls out a handful of colorful evolution crystals and starts handing them out to his zombie employees. Chi Wei swallows her crystal first, and the system immediately confirms that she's successfully leveled up. Seeing it work perfectly, Meng is more convinced than ever that his employee training program is a massive success. Next up is Shupin. Meng tosses him a purple crystal and tells him to eat it. The mutation kicks in almost instantly. His eyes glow bright red, his body begins changing, and before long he develops sharp claws and canine features. The system officially updates his job title from employee to the company's security dog, and it fits him pretty well. Just then, a brand new mission pops up, ordering Meng to organize a team-building event centered around planting trees. Our guy immediately gathers everyone and gets the event underway. Soon a large yellow truck loaded with flowers and saplings pulls up outside the company. Xiaoqiu barges into the office to gather everyone, but all she can do is growl when Professor Lau asks if the president wants them downstairs. A few moments later, the whole company is lined up outside the building. Meng hands everyone a shovel and a sapling, then officially kicks off peace and orders first corporate team-building exercise. One immediately starts praising the president's incredible vision, while Shun and Luanping quietly realize this bro has already become the company's biggest bootlicker. Soon everyone gets to work. The humans dig holes while the zombies haul around heavy bags of fertilizer like they're moving groceries. As one carefully plants a rose, Meng proudly says this is way more meaningful than wasting time at karaoke. Shin can't help asking why they're planting flowers outside when they already have decorative plants upstairs. Meng refuses to reveal his master plan, claiming the project is classified because he's trying to grow pea-shooting plants. That one comment sends everyone's imagination into overdrive, and before long they're seriously discussing whether the flowers might evolve into living weapons. One listens to the conversation in complete disbelief, wondering if everyone around him has officially lost their minds. While he's distracted, a red-eyed zombie quietly sneaks up behind him, ready to tear his throat out. Before it can attack, Shuping charges in like a loyal guard dog, tackles the zombie out of midair, and rips its head clean off with his teeth. Watching the whole thing, Meng nods in satisfaction. Turns out Shuping really does have a natural talent for being a dog. The system congratulates him on successfully completing the gardening event and reminds him that great achievements are built through small, consistent efforts. The team-building mission ends with a perfect score, earning peace and order a reward of 120,000 yuan. The system even suggests splitting the company into separate divisions to encourage internal competition. Meng quickly rejects the idea. Knowing his employees, healthy competition would probably turn into a full-blown civil war by lunchtime. Meng decides to spend his latest stat point on spirit, figuring a stronger mind is the best defense against all the insanity around him. The system confirms his spirit has now reached 19, making our guy even more mentally stable. Browsing the system shop, he comes across a power generator that converts running into electricity. Meng immediately pictures his zombie employees running on treadmills forever and proudly imagines peace and order becoming the world's first fully green company. He buys the machine on the spot, and the system stores it in virtual space for the next 12 hours. With plenty of rewards saved up, Meng decides it's finally time for a 10 pull. 100,000 yuan disappears instantly, and our guy confidently demands a legendary reward from the system. Instead, he gets bottled water, instant noodles, a secretary outfit, and a toy gun. Meng just stands there in disbelief. Bro got absolutely scammed. Refusing to accept defeat, he immediately spends another 10 points and starts rolling again. Before the results can even sink in, the system suddenly gives him a brand new mission that requires a trip to Modu. Meanwhile, not far from peace and order, a group of survivors secretly watches the company through a pair of binoculars. Seeing Meng casually hanging around with zombies, one of them suggests offering instant noodles to form an alliance. His teammate immediately shuts the idea down, saying Meng looks even more dangerous than the zombies themselves. As evening falls, Meng sets off again with Xiaqiu and Liao riding in the back seat. A notification pops up, informing him that the channel has been successfully synchronized. Looking at the map, he notices his employees moving toward different locations and happily comments that they're all working hard for the company's future. Then our guy decides it's finally time to upgrade his ride, and sets the GPS for the nearest luxury car dealership. Before long, he arrives outside the showroom, where a few wandering zombies are quickly taken care of. Meanwhile, we see a saleswoman stuck in the basement of the showroom. She has almost no food or water left, and had just gathered the courage to leave her shelter when the fighting started outside. Peeking through the doorway, she finds the street covered in zombie corpses, with one guy casually standing in the middle alongside two zombie girls. Sensing someone nearby, Meng assumes another mutant is hiding inside and orders his employees to check the basement. The saleswoman immediately runs out and hurriedly explains that she's human and used to work at the dealership. Meng tells her not to rush out like that again because she almost made him waste a perfectly good bullet. Calling him boss, the saleswoman offers to take him into the showroom if he'll spare her some supplies. Meng tosses her a bottle of water but makes it clear that if she's lying, things won't end well for her. While she eagerly eats a piece of bread, Meng gets straight to business and asks what kind of car he can buy with 1 million yuan. The saleswoman completely freezes. Of all the questions she expected during the apocalypse, buying a luxury car definitely wasn't one of them. Seeing her hesitate, Meng starts wondering if she actually knows anything or just tricked him into coming here. The saleswoman quickly lists several recommendations, and after hearing them, Meng seems pretty satisfied with the options. Then, completely out of nowhere, he offers to be friends. The saleswoman has absolutely no idea where that came from. Meng simply explains that friends should get employee discounts, so she should give him a special price on the car. The saleswoman says he can just take it for free since money barely means anything anymore. But Meng refuses on the spot. Instead of lowering the price, he tells her to keep it fair and just throw in a few extra accessories with the deal. The group heads inside the abandoned dealership, where a sleek black luxury sedan sits waiting in the middle of the showroom. Meng gives it a quick inspection, nods in approval, and decides this is the one. Walking over to the counter, he casually asks the saleswoman if he can pay by card. Deciding to play along, the saleswoman picks up an old card terminal and tells him to go ahead. Meng confidently pulls out his municipal hospital card, proudly calling it his unlimited credit card. Then the terminal actually beeps. The room goes completely silent. The saleswoman just stares at the machine, unable to understand how a terminal with no electricity somehow processed the payment. The system immediately confirms the purchase and deducts 1 million yuan from Peace and Order's account. Meng almost has a heart attack. Bro was joking around, and the system actually charged him. He leans against his brand new sedan, trying to recover from the emotional damage of losing 1 million yuan in one click. Looking at the saleswoman, Meng decides she'd fit perfectly in Peace and Order because she's clearly talented at taking people's money. The saleswoman immediately refuses the offer, making it very clear she has no intention of joining his company. Meng's expression suddenly turns serious, and he assures her that despite what she's seen today, he's perfectly sane. Seeing she's not interested, he drops the topic and simply tells her to look him up if she ever changes her mind. Finally, our guy slides into the driver's seat and enjoys the feeling of sitting inside his million-yuan dream car. Unfortunately, there is one small problem. The car doesn't have license plates. Meng immediately starts complaining, leaving the saleswoman completely confused by what exactly he's upset about now. Trying to stay professional, she asks whether he has any preferences for the plate number. Meng immediately requests a plate with as many 8s as possible because every successful boss needs lucky numbers. He sends the saleswoman out to solve the problem and tells Liao to go with her as security. Liao silently follows behind, staring at the saleswoman so intensely that the poor girl starts getting nervous. She hesitantly asks if Liao is actually a zombie. Meng proudly confirms it and reminds her to show some respect because she's one of the company's senior managers. The saleswoman suddenly starts running, thinking this might be her only opportunity. She doesn't get very far. A zombie suddenly jumps out and lunges straight at her. Before it can touch her, Liao intercepts it with a single kick that caves its skull in. Watching Liao protect her, the saleswoman suddenly feels a lot safer standing beside the zombie than running away alone. After returning, she hands Meng the license plate and claims she got it through a very special channel. Meng gives it a careful inspection, nods in satisfaction, and says the quality control checks out. Pleased with her work, he rewards the saleswoman with a thick stack of cash as a tip. Once the new plate is installed, the system confirms the task has been completed successfully. Another notification appears, informing Meng that all of his physical stats have now reached the maximum limit of 20. The system explains that the next stage of evolution requires completing a special advancement mission and even lists futuristic paths like biotechnology, cybernetic enhancements, and space-level evolution. Meng doesn't care about any of that. He skips straight to the important part and asks what mission he actually has to complete. The answer is surprisingly simple: organize a massive company party. Meng figures throwing a celebration with food, music, and dancing shouldn't be too hard. Just then, another emergency mission pops up. The country's newly crowned best actress is trapped in a dangerous area and needs to be rescued. Meng sighs the moment he sees another safe zone mission but quickly realizes he can probably recruit her on the way back and maybe charge her a premium while he's at it. Complaining that he's been working himself to death for the sake of the company, and especially Xiaoqiu, our guy starts driving through the ruined city once again. Xiaoqiu simply tilts her head and lets out a confused growl, while Meng is already thinking about his next big payday and declaring that the king of Bayan Bulak Valley is back in business. Elsewhere, a group of survivors hangs around a courtyard, gossiping about the latest rumor, a complete madman who somehow started a company during the apocalypse. One of them takes a drag from his cigarette, saying he can't stand crazy businessmen because they always attract trouble. Another asks when their master will send them the next divine revelation, and the smoker confidently says it'll come soon because they're the chosen ones destined to rule the new world. Meanwhile, we cut to the upscale neighborhood where the country's top actress, and is trapped inside her mansion. Outside, dozens of zombies wander around the estate while she sits alone on the floor, hugging her knees with nothing but a moldy piece of bread to eat. As she stares into space, memories of her glamorous life begin flooding back. She remembers standing under bright stage lights, accepting prestigious awards while her assistant congratulated her on another successful performance. Then reality comes crashing back. That very day was when the apocalypse began and her assistant was killed by zombies. Taking another bite of the moldy bread, and breaks down in tears, wishing she'd never complained about dieting when normal food was still everywhere. Just then, the sound of an engine echoes through the neighborhood. She rushes onto the balcony and freezes when she spots a car speeding toward the mansion. The surrounding zombies hear it too and immediately swarm toward the headlights. Watching the horde close in, and decides she'd rather die by her own hands than let those monsters tear her apart. A second later, the black sedan smashes straight through the front gate and barrels into the middle of the courtyard, sending zombies flying in every direction. Leaning over the balcony, and desperately screams for help and promises to pay whatever it costs if he'll save her. But instead of driving away, the sedan stops right in the middle of the zombie horde. And can't believe it. In her head, any sane rescuer would have shown up in an armored truck, not a luxury sedan. Meng, meanwhile, couldn't look more relaxed. He slams on the gas and throws the car into a hard drift, crushing zombies beneath the wheels as blood splatters across his brand new paint job. Then he calmly steps out of the driver's seat, humming a cheerful tune like he's out for an evening stroll, and completely loses it and yells at him to get back in the car before he gets himself killed. Instead, Meng politely introduces himself as her taxi driver and asks for the last digits of her ride confirmation code, and just stares at him in complete disbelief. While she's still processing that, Meng, Xiaoqiu, and Liao tear through the zombie horde with frightening efficiency. Within moments, the courtyard is completely cleared, and Meng casually tells his client not to worry because the two zombies with him are just his bodyguards. Then he asks for the confirmation code again, still completely confused, and finally gives him the numbers. With the trip officially confirmed, Meng marches toward the mansion entrance, cutting down every remaining zombie blocking the entrance. Reaching the front door, he calmly knocks and tells his passenger that it's safe to come outside now. After a few seconds of silence, the door opens just a crack, and An nervously asks what this strange man actually wants from her. Meng quietly looks her over, and the system immediately identifies her as someone with top-tier artistic talent, and has no idea whether he's joking or serious anymore. But after everything she's seen, she decides to trust him and quietly follows behind. Meng proudly declares the rescue mission a complete success and says there isn't a single zombie left nearby. The moment he says that, a gray mutant with a sharp horn growing from its forehead crashes onto the street right in front of them. Meng immediately orders Liao to tear the ugly thing apart, and her scarlet eyes light up as she charges forward. She launches herself into the air with so much force that nearby windows shatter before she crashes toward the mutant. The horned zombie throws a punch at the same time, and the two attacks collide head-on. Liao's punch slams into its chest, forcing the giant mutant backward. Watching the fight, Meng is actually surprised there's only one mutated zombie guarding the area. Xiaoqiu lets out a roar from the side, while Meng jumps into the fight himself with his axe and pistol ready. He dives in with a clean slash and chops one of the mutant's arms clean off, sending blood spraying everywhere. The monster stumbles back, giving Liao the perfect opening to rush in and rip off its other arm as well. Watching from the second floor, and can only stare in disbelief. She can't believe they're overpowering a mutant this easily. Meng doesn't waste the opening. He steps in and finishes the fight with one clean swing, sending the mutant's head flying. Liao instantly rushes toward the corpse, tears the glowing horn crystal out of its head, and is about to eat it. Meng quickly stops her, saying the raid leader is the one who distributes the loot. Instead of taking it away, he tosses the new crystal back to her and tells her to eat the old one first and save this one for later. Liao obediently accepts it, and the system identifies the horn monster as a level 3 strength-type zombie. After checking the street one last time, Meng calls An down and tells her it's finally safe, and quickly comes downstairs, and the group gets back into the car to leave. They haven't driven very far before Meng suddenly slams on the brakes and looks around in confusion, wondering what could possibly be blocking the road. Meng quietly points at the traffic light ahead. It's still red, and can only stare at him in disbelief. Even after the apocalypse, this guy still refuses to run a red light. The moment it turns green, Meng calmly drives off like nothing happened. When they reach the villa district, and suddenly notices half a body lying in one of the courtyards and nervously points it out. Meng casually explains that it's just the cult leader's wife, or at least half of her, and immediately looks away in disgust, while Meng decides it's already too late to keep driving, so they'll spend the night at his house instead. Carrying her luggage, and nervously follows him into the mansion, still unsure if she's making the right decision. Left alone, and curls up on the bed and hugs her knees, unable to shake the creepy feeling filling the mansion. She tries to stay in the room, but the silence only makes things worse. Hugging her pillow, she finally gives up and quietly walks downstairs, hoping to find another human nearby. After hesitating outside Meng's room, she knocks on the door and admits she's too scared to sleep alone. Meng looks at her and casually asks if she's sure about that, and agrees, and Meng simply tells her to come in. The moment she steps inside, she freezes. Meng is already lying in bed with Xiaoqiu and Liao hugging him from both sides. Meng says he's too tired to think about it, and tells her to just join them if she wants. An's face turns bright red from embarrassment, but after everything that's happened today, she quietly climbs into bed anyway.